Chapter 700. The guest chamberlain's words seemed to have hit the sore spot of the two late-stage core forging sect disciples. After the Yingshan mountain range was ravaged by the Shura and Shuma cultivators, the three sect's Dao sites were all destroyed. They followed Long River Laozu and abandoned the Yingshan sect's 4,000 years of inheritance to join the Gu clan, becoming the Gu clan's outer sect. What they hated the most was outsiders saying that they had forgotten their roots. This time, Long River Laozu had returned to the Yingshan mountain range as a representative of the Gu clan to expand their territory. However, they discovered that all sorts of factions had sprung up in the mountain range. Among them, the Yingshan Immortal Academy was developing the fastest. It was even rumored that the academy had Fa Xiang Laozu overseeing it. This time, the two of them had come with the intention of testing the waters. They wanted to see how strong the Yingshan Immortal Academy was. They had reinforcements supporting them. Even if the Yingshan Immortal Academy really had a Dharma characteristic ancestor, they would not be afraid. However, after the two of them casually found an excuse to injure a few herb-gathering disciples from the Yingshan Immortal Academy, they did not see any high-level cultivators from the Yingshan Immortal Academy. Instead, a few outer sect chamberlains rushed over and pointed out their past. Moreover, among the three cultivators in front of them, the highest cultivation was only at the 6th stage of core forging. The other two had just advanced to the 4th stage of core forging. This made the two of them feel as if their dignity as late-stage core forging experts had been greatly insulted. The 7th stage core forging cultivator attacked first, using a Dao technique to attack the three people. This was the technique he was proud of, and it was most suited for group battles. In his opinion, he could deal with the three core forging guest chamberlains from the Yingshan Immortal Academy by himself. The leading guest chamberlain from the Yingshan Immortal Academy saw that his opponent was going to kill them the moment he attacked. His expression instantly changed, and he hurriedly joined forces with the other two guest chamberlains to defend. However, all three of them were loose cultivators. Being able to increase their cultivation to this level was already their limit. How much time and energy did they have to cultivate offensive techniques? This was the sorrow of individual cultivators. Perhaps they had spent far more time and energy than the disciples of the sects to increase their cultivation to the same level, but they did not have powerful killing and defensive skills. Compared to the disciples of the sects of the same level who had the inheritance of the system, their strength was a notch lower for no reason. This was also the reason why the three of them were willing to join the Yingshan Immortal Academy. If they wanted to improve further and obtain a more systematic inheritance, they could only join a sect. However, how could the large sects think highly of them and trust them? Hence, they could only find some sects that were weaker but had a complete inheritance and had the potential to develop. They hoped that they could obtain an important inheritance that could allow them to improve further. 3 consecutive explosions rang out, and the two guests who had just advanced to the mid-core forging stage immediately spat out mouthfuls of blood and fell to the ground far away. The 6th layer guest flew back several feet in the air before he managed to stabilize his body. However, his complexion was already pale. It was obvious that even though this attack didn't injure him, it had consumed a lot of his true essence. You dare to speak so arrogantly with just this level of strength? Since that's the case, the 3 of you can die. The 7th-stage core forging cultivator from the Surplus River sect took a few steps forward and once again arrived in front of the 3 guest chamberlains. He pressed his right palm down slightly and an oppressive pressure appeared in the air. The 3 guest chamberlains felt the pressure on their chests increase greatly. In just a moment, the 3 of them would probably suffocate to death. At this moment, the 6th-stage core forging guest chamberlain gritted his teeth. His body suddenly leaped up under the immense pressure. When he landed, he was already in front of the unconscious disciples from the Immortal Academy. He used a defensive treasure to protect them from the other party's divine ability. Meanwhile, his mouth and nose were bleeding from the other party's divine ability. The other 2 guest chamberlains from the Immortal Academy had already fainted. At this moment, he could no longer care about his 2 companions. You still remember to work for the Yingshan Immortal Academy even when you're about to die. How many benefits has the Immortal Academy given you? It's rare to find a weirdo like you among rogue cultivators. Since you're willing to be a trustworthy person, I'll fulfill your wish. A ball of scarlet blood light suddenly appeared in the other party's palm. It whistled through the air towards the guest chamberlain's chest. At this moment, the guest chamberlain had already been completely suppressed by the other party's divine ability. It was already extremely difficult for him to dodge. Moreover, there were still a few herb-gathering disciples from the Immortal Academy behind him. These were all late-stage blood-refining disciples and those who had just entered the blood condensation realm. Amidst the loud bang, the guest chamberlain who originally thought that he was going to die opened his eyes in shock. He saw that there was an illusory forest in front of him that completely blocked the ball of blood light. Myriad Wood Forest. Is Elder Xiantian here? The guest chamberlain ignored his injuries and shouted in surprise. He had made the right bet this time. If he didn't die, he would definitely be able to gain the trust of the higher-ups from the Immortal Academy. If he could receive help from the Immortal Academy and make up for his cultivation method, he might be able to break through the shackles of the mid-core forging realm and advance to the late-core forging realm. As for the materialization realm, he didn't dare to think about it. When the 7th-level core forging cultivator saw that the innate divine ability he had just cultivated after advancing to the late core forging realm was so easily blocked, his expression changed. When he looked up, he saw a cultivator in his 30s riding a streak of light that landed in front of the heavily injured guest chamberlain. You're Yingshan Immortal Academy's Xiantian? I heard that you've recently become quite famous in the Yingshan mountain range. Even an 8th-level core forging cultivator is no match for you? The 7th-layer core forging cultivator glanced back at his comrade and asked with a serious expression. Master Xiantian also looked back at the 8th-level core forging cultivator and handed a bottle of pills to the guest chamberlain who was struggling to get up from the ground. He said, if it weren't for fellow Taoist Li and the other 2 fellow Taoists risking their lives, my sect's disciples would have met with misfortune. This bottle of pills is one of the best healing pills from the Immortal Academy. Fellow Taoists should first take it to stabilize your injuries and then save the other 2 fellow Taoists. Guest Li smiled bitterly. I'm ashamed. The 3 of us are too weak. If it weren't for Elder Xiantian's timely arrival, I fear the 3 of us would have fallen as well. When the 7th-level core forging cultivator saw that Master Xiantian treated him as if he didn't exist, he immediately became furious. Although he had some understanding of Master Xiantian's strength, when he saw that Master Xiantian was only at the 7th level of core forging like him, he thought to himself, no matter how strong you are, how much stronger can you be? Thus, he didn't say anything to his companions behind him and took the initiative to condense a ball of bloody light that shot towards Master Xiantian. Taoist Master Xiantian abruptly turned his head and 12 log thorns shot out from the ground, stabbing towards the cultivators who were caught off guard. At some unknown time, Master Xiantian had already set up a trap on the ground, as if he had already predicted that the other party would attack. The moment the 7th-level core forging cultivator made his move, the 8th-level core forging cultivator behind him felt his heart skip a beat. He shouted, Junior Martial Brother Wang, be careful. His figure flickered, wanting to rush forward to help. However, at this time, Taoist Master Xiantian had already launched an attack. Junior Martial Brother Wang, who was at the 7th layer of core forging, tried his best to dodge and at the same time retracted his innate magical ability to block the log thorns shooting from different directions. Master Xiantian had been a 6th-level core forging cultivator for nearly 100 years. After he found a suitable high-grade Earth Step Spirit item to advance to the late core forging stage, it was finally time for his accumulation to explode. Taoist Master Xiantian was also a 7th-layer core forging cultivator. Taoist Master Xiantian's 12 life essence magic treasures, log thorns, attacked together. Taoist Master Xiantian was only able to block 3 thorns, and then he tried his best to avoid the other 4. Immediately after, the 8th-layer core forging cultivator behind him summoned his magic treasure to help him block 3 thorns. However, the remaining 2 thorns pierced through his shoulder and left a hole in his thigh. In an instant, the situation reversed. Master Xian Tian had severely injured a cultivator with a similar cultivation level as him. The 8th level core forging cultivator behind him was shocked and angry. He shouted, "Scoundrel, you dare?" Following the cultivator's roar, a pair of wing-like magic treasures slashed towards Taoist Xian Tian. Junior martial brother Wang fell to the ground. He flicked his fingers on his body to stop the bleeding. He raised his head to look at Taoist master Xian Tian, who was fighting with the 8th stage core forging cultivator. Senior martial brother Jianming, this person must die. After saying that, he said to enlightened Xian Tian, "Did you think that we came here today just to provoke you? We already predicted that you, Xian Tian, would definitely appear. It's a pity that although Yingshan Immortal Academy's reputation is not small, they only have a late-stage core forging cultivator to put out the fire. Today will be the day you die." Master Xian Tian was shocked. This was a trap to kill him. Then, he saw junior martial brother Wang take out a talisman-like object and raise it into the sky. Although Master Xian Tian wanted to stop him, Master Jianming suddenly exerted force and firmly entangled him. Master Xian Tian reckoned that he might not lose to this 8th level core forging cultivator in a one-on-one fight, but he wouldn't be able to defeat him in a short time. At this moment, the talisman in the sky suddenly broke apart, turning into 3 dark green threads that shot in different directions. Then 3 long whistles sounded. 3 auras that far surpassed Master Xian Tian's came from 3 different directions, clearly forming an encirclement towards Master Xian Tian. Master Xian Tian's 12 wooden thorns turned into 2, 2 into 4, instantly filling the sky with wooden thorns that shot towards Master Jianming. Master Jianming sneered. He was about to dodge the attack from the front and block it from the other side, but he saw many wooden thorns change direction and shoot towards junior martial brother Wang behind him. Master Jianming roared angrily. He had no choice but to turn around to protect junior martial brother Wang, who couldn't move easily. Master Xian Tian took advantage of the gap between Master Jianming's attack and turned to guest elderly in the distance. "Take the disciples and the other 2 guests and leave this place. The other side's reinforcements will arrive soon. I'll cover your retreat." Guest elderly knew that if they stayed, they would only be a burden to Elder Xian Tian. Only if they escaped would they be able to return to Immortal Academy and call for reinforcements. "You want to call for reinforcements?" Junior brother Wang said fiercely, "The only person who can save you now is that Dharma adept of yours. However, do you think that we do not have the confidence to set up a trap and kill you so close to your sect?" Chapter 701. 3 rays of light streaked across the sky, surrounding Taoist Xian Tian in the middle. Taoist Xian Tian and Jianming had already separated. Jianming retreated to junior martial brother Wang, protecting him behind him. Seeing junior martial brother Wang sneer behind Taoist Jianming, Taoist Xian Tian turned to look at the other late-stage core forging cultivators. Taoist Xian Tian frowned, then laughed. The Yinghe sect's dojo was destroyed and less than 10% of its disciples survived. It's impossible for 5 late-stage core forging cultivators to appear at once. 3 of you must be from the Gu clan. It seems that Changhe Laozu has really joined the Gu clan, but it seems that the Gu clan doesn't trust Changhe Laozu too much. Jinren Jianming's face darkened. He scoffed and said, "Don't try to sow discord. The reason we set this up today is to surround and kill you. It's also to give the Dharma adepts behind you a warning. If the sects you've established leaving mountain, then so be it. Otherwise, today's incident will repeat itself again and again until your adepts become a loner." Reverend Jianming's words caused Reverend Xuantian's expression to change. Reverend Jianming's words were very clear. With old ancestor Guotianshan's abilities, it was impossible for anything that happened here to escape his notice at such a close distance from the Yingshan Immortal Academy. However, they still dared to openly surround him. Clearly, it was because old ancestor Guotianshan was being held back by someone else. When junior martial brother Wang saw Taoist Xuantian's expression change, he laughed sinisterly. "Do you understand now? But it's too late." With that, he turned to the 3 people surrounding Taoist Xian Tian and said, "Brother Gu, please help us kill this person." The 3 people silently nodded. 3 magic treasures revolved around them. forming a simple array formation that shot towards Taoist Xiantian. Taoist Master Xuantian's strength could be considered top-notch among cultivators of the same level, and he could even compete with ordinary 8th-layer core forging cultivators. However, the cultivation bases of the three opponents were all at least 8th-layer core forging cultivators. Moreover, the auras emanating from their bodies were like billowing waves. Clearly, they were not mediocre among 8th-layer core forging cultivators. Even Taoist Master Xiantian would find it difficult to deal with such a person, but now there were three of them. Furthermore, there was also Taoist Jian Ming, who was also at the 8th stage of core forging. Taoist Master Xuantian's heart sank bit by bit. 6 of the 12 log thorns pierced into the ground and disappeared, while the remaining 6 circled around Taoist Master Xiantian to protect him. This was a dead end, but how could Xiantian Jinren be willing to give up? The leader of the 3 Gu clan cultivators sneered disdainfully and said, "It's just a struggle of a cornered beast." As soon as he finished speaking, a series of crisp sounds rang out. 6 log thorns suddenly pierced out from the ground, attacking the 3 separately. However, the 3 cultivators from the Gu family were already prepared. Although the power of Taoist Master Xuantian's 6 log thorns surprised the 3 of them, the Gu family cultivators were not weak. Not to mention, it was difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. Even if Taoist Master Xiantian managed to seize the initiative, the 3 of them still managed to suppress him and counterattack at the same time. With just 1 strike, 3 of the remaining 6 log thorns around Taoist Master Xiantian were knocked away, one of his wooden shields cracked, and his protective astral energy was on the verge of collapse. Junior brother Wang was shocked that Taoist Master Xiantian was able to withstand the combined attack of the 3 Gu clan cultivators, but he saw that Taoist Master Xiantian was clearly an arrow at the end of its flight. He continued to ridicule him. "Xianan, just give up. How can you be a match for the 3 Gu clan cultivators? If you resist stubbornly, you will die today. No one will be able to save you." "Oh, what if I join in?" A voice suddenly rang out nearby. The Gu clan cultivators, Taoist Jian Ming, and the others were surprised, but there was no trace of panic on their faces. It was obvious that the person who spoke was nearby. When they had chosen this place as the location for the trap, they had already scouted the surrounding area. Even with Dharma Power Laozu hiding nearby, they still did not discover that someone had already snuck into the area without anyone knowing. However, it was precisely because the Gu clan cultivators, Taoist Jian Ming, and the others knew that Laozu was nearby that they did not show any signs of fear even though they were surprised. When Taoist Master Xiantian heard this person's voice, his face lit up with joy. However, when he saw the 5 late core forging adepts, the joy on his face disappeared without a trace. Especially the 3 Gu clan cultivators in front of him. They were clearly proficient in a combined attack technique. The power of this technique was similar to Zhenling Tian Shui and Tian Fan, the 2 mid-Dharma adepts, joining forces to defeat Laozu. It was definitely not as simple as the combined strength of 3 late core forging adepts. A young man, who looked to be about 20 years old, suddenly appeared in the sky above the battle. This time, not only were the 3 Gu clan cultivators, Taoist Jian Ming, and the others shocked, even Taoist Master Xiantian revealed a look of surprise. If one were to say that this person was able to sneak into the battle without being discovered, then although his strength was amazing, it was only his ability to hide his tracks. But now, this person was clearly above the battle between the 2 sides. The unhindered divine techniques, the vibrations caused by the flying swords, and the danger caused by the magical weapons made it almost impossible for cultivators to hide their tracks. However, the truth was right in front of their eyes. Not only did this young cultivator succeed, if he did not reveal himself, it was likely that no one would be able to detect his presence. If that person did not take the initiative to speak, but instead suddenly attacked from above, then they would be caught off guard. The moment this person appeared, the 3 Gu clan cultivators retreated 10 feet together, expanding the encirclement once again. However, they still surrounded the person who just appeared, including Taoist Master Xiantian. At the same time, they discovered that the person who just appeared was only at the 8th layer of core forging. Excluding the injured junior brother Wang, They still had 4 8th-layer core forging experts on their side. As such, what was there to be afraid of? Taoist Master Xiantian looked at the person above his head with a trace of astonishment. He could tell that the person who just spoke was Lu Ping. However, when this person appeared, Taoist Master Xiantian saw an unfamiliar face. This was somewhat thought-provoking. Why was junior brother Lu not willing to reveal his face in front of others? The person who just appeared was Lu Ping, who had rushed over after receiving Guo Tianshan's order from Laozu. Naturally, the expression on Taoist Master Xuantian's face did not escape his eyes. He looked meaningfully at the forest not far behind junior brother Wang and the others and said, "Senior brother, I'm not too late, am I?" Taoist Master Xiantian followed Lu Ping's gaze and did not see anything. However, he was a quick-witted person. Not seeing did not mean that he could not guess. Taoist Master Xiantian immediately remembered what Jiang Tianlin and Laozu had told him before he came to the Central Plains. At that time, when they escaped from the Yingtian Temple, they were ambushed by the Dharma adepts of the Gu family and the 3 factions of the Yingshan. Thus, it was obvious that these people had seen Lu Ping's face. At that time, the core forging adepts of the 3 factions who had participated in the encirclement of the North Sea adepts had all died under the surprise attack of the Xioma and Shura adepts. Only the Dharma adepts had survived. Furthermore, Lu Ping had deliberately hidden his face. Coupled with that meaningful gaze just now, Taoist Master Xuantian's Jr. immediately broke out in a cold sweat. The other party had a Dharma adept hidden among them. Lu Ping saw a flash of shock in Taoist Master Xuantian's eyes and knew that Taoist Master Xiantian had already understood what he meant. However, he smiled and said, "Senior brother, how about you let me have the 3 adepts of the Gu family? I have just finished my training and want to test my skills. I'll have to trouble you to deal with the 2 dogs of the Gu family." Taoist Master Xiantian knew that the junior brother in front of him was stronger than him and could only be described as unfathomable. Seeing that Zhou Donghuang had taken on the strongest of the 3 Gu brothers, he was grateful. However, he also knew that he was no match for the 3 Gu brothers. Thus, he did not argue and said directly, "These 3 have a combined attack technique. Junior brother, be careful." The 3 Gu brothers saw that Lu Ping had appeared and was talking cheerfully, as if he did not care about the others. The leader of the 3 looked angry and said in a low voice, "How arrogant of you! Although the 3 of us can't say that we are invincible among our peers, we have never been defeated by anyone below the Dharma adept level. Today, let's see what you have up your sleeves." The 3 Gu brothers were not the only ones who were angered by Lu Ping's arrogant words. Taoist Jian Ming and junior brother Wang were also angered by the 2 dogs that Lu Ping had mentioned. "You've gone too far." Taoist Jian Ming summoned his own treasure and suddenly turned into a beam of light in the sky that shot towards Lu Ping. The beam of light fluctuated, clearly the same as junior brother Wang's blood-red light. However, Taoist Jian Ming's spell contained a layer of mist and did not have junior brother Wang's bloody aura. It was clear that Taoist Jian Ming's mastery of this spell was far greater than Lu Ping's. Taoist Master Xuantian's 12 wooden thorns suddenly shot out towards the beam of light in the sky. He shouted, "Your opponent is me." The 2 spells, with the help of their respective treasures, clashed against each other. For a moment, there was no clear victor. Taoist Jian Ming turned to junior brother Wang and shouted, "Junior brother, lend me a hand. Let's end this quickly." After Taoist Master Xuantian's wooden thorns pierced his thigh and shoulder, junior brother Wang had been hiding outside of the battlefield. Now that he heard Taoist Jian Ming's shout, although he was unwilling, he did not refuse. A blood-red light appeared in his hand and shot towards Taoist Master Xiantian. However, compared to before, this red light was clearly much smaller. However, just as the 2 sides clashed, a deafening sword chime, accompanied by an unparalleled aura and a sharp killing intent, suddenly burst out from Lu Ping, who was behind Xiantian Enlightened Master. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Looking at the shocked faces of the Gu clan's 3 heroes, the Autumn Dew Fairy Sword that had been dormant for 4,000 years in Yingtian Dojo finally regained its divine might in Lu Ping's hands. Lu Ping let out a long laugh as he pointed at the trio and shouted, "Come and die." Chapter 702. Each of the 6 sword techniques in the North Sea wave listening technique was extraordinary, but Lu Ping knew that at least 3 of the 6 techniques were more suitable for the twin flying swords. Ever since Lu Ping had entered the core forging stage, he had been looking for a set of twin flying swords. However, Lu Ping's standards were so high that an ordinary pair of flying swords would not catch his eye. It was only after he had obtained the flowing sword that he began to think about obtaining the thin water sword of the Songhai sect. However, this set of flying swords was not to be underestimated. Even if Lu Ping had obtained it, he would not be able to use it until he reached the Dharma stage. After Jiang Tianlin Laozu found out that the flowing sword was in Lu Ping's hands, he had instructed Lu Ping not to reveal the whereabouts of this flying sword in the North Sea, especially in front of the Songhai sect cultivators. Fortunately, ancestor Jiang Tianlin had given Lu Ping the charming autumn water twin swords as a reward. Of course, part of this was because of Lu Ping's selfishness. Although it wasn't as good as the thin water flowing sword, a pair of spirit-nurturing grade flying swords was more than enough to make Lu Ping ecstatic. No Zhenling disciple would underestimate the power of a combined attack technique. However, to fight against the Gu clan's 3 heroes alone, besides Lu Ping's absolute confidence in his own abilities, the most important thing was that Lu Ping wanted to fight to his heart's content. The reason was simple. With a pair of spirit cultivation grade flying swords in hand, he was itching to fight. The 3 heroes of the Gu clan's 3 talents combined attack had once defeated 3 9th-level core forging adepts. Although they had never fought against a Dharma adept before, the 3 heroes of the Gu clan had always believed that even if they were not a match for an early Dharma adept, they would still be able to withstand a few blows from a Dharma adept. Lu Ping brandished his faded autumn dew sword. Although the 3 of them were shocked by the spirit-nurturing grade treasure, it wasn't enough to make their expressions change. What truly caused the 3 of them to feel a trace of fear was the aura that erupted from Lu Ping's body in an instant, that kind of absolute spiritual pressure. This was something that the 3 heroes of the Gu clan could only sense from their Dharma idol, Laozu. However, the person in front of them was clearly at the 8th layer of core forging. The 3 heroes of the Gu clan didn't have much time to think. Lu Ping couldn't wait to show off his skills and see what level he had reached. Raging waves hitting the shore. Thousand snow heap sword art. Great river flows east. These 3 sets of sword techniques were executed by Lu Ping with ease. With Lu Ping's pair of flying swords, the sword techniques of each set were easily executed. Even the raging waves hitting the shore and the thousand snow heap sword art, with the faded autumn dew sword art and Lu Ping's mastery of swordsmanship, were no less powerful than the most powerful techniques. The raging waves hitting the shore was executed, and the pair of flying swords created wave after wave of waves that rushed towards the 3 heroes of the Gu clan. Although the 3 heroes of the Gu clan tried their best to execute their combined attack, they were still unable to trap Lu Ping within. When Lu Ping's sword techniques changed, and the thousand snow heap sword art was executed, the 3 heroes of the Gu clan were like an isolated island in the middle of the ocean. Monstrous waves surged from all directions, sweeping towards the island as if they wanted to completely bury it in the sea. At this time, it was no longer Lu Ping who was attacking the 3 heroes of the Gu clan. Instead, it was Lu Ping's pair of flying swords that had trapped the 3 heroes of the Gu clan in a constant struggle. Although Junior Martial Brother Wang was assisting enlightened Jian Ming in his battle against enlightened Xiantian, his mind wasn't entirely focused on the battle between enlightened Jian Ming and enlightened Xiantian. From the beginning to the end, he had been observing the battle between Lu Ping and the 3 heroes of the Gu clan. To his heart's content, Junior Martial Brother Wang had actually experienced such a feeling from Lu Ping's swordsmanship. The sky was filled with the waves of swords created by Lu Ping's 2 swords. The 3 heroes of the Gu clan had previously surrounded Lu Ping, but now it was Lu Ping's 2 swords surrounding the 3 heroes of the Gu clan. At this time, the 3 heroes of the Gu clan could no longer care about the shock in their hearts. The 3 of them could only stand back to back and focus all of their attention on defending against the encirclement of Lu Ping's 2 swords. After Lu Ping consecutively executed 2 sets of swordsmanship, his heart was at ease. A surge of heroic spirit immediately burst forth from his heart, and he couldn't help but roar towards the sky. The sword wave that filled the sky suddenly turned into a monstrous wave of swords under Lu Ping's roar. The entire wave of swords seemed to suddenly become orderly. Although the attacks of the thousand snow heap sword art came from all directions and were clearly all-pervasive, it also scattered the offensive power of the flying swords. However, when the entire wave of swords became orderly, the pair of flying swords lost some of their nimbleness, but gained a boundless offensive power. That great river flows east was a true great swordsmanship technique. It was as if the Milky Way was collapsing, but the three heroes of the Gu clan could not even be a reef in the middle of the river. Under the powerful torrent of swordsmanship, the three heroes were like giant rocks that were constantly being battered. They had no choice but to be pushed again and again, but in the end, they were smashed into pieces. The three talents formation was finally unable to withstand the impact of Lu Ping's swordsmanship. The magical protection that the three heroes had formed together was forcefully cracked by Lu Ping from the front. It was like a dull hammer that directly hit the hearts of the three heroes. The three talents formation was first red, then white, and finally dark red. When the three heroes could no longer suppress the blood in their hearts, they spat out a mist of blood in front of them. Junior brother Wang, who was far away helping perfected Jian Ming besieging perfected Shen Tian, finally could no longer suppress the fear in his heart. This person could not be at the 8th level of the core forging stage. This person must be a Dharma adept who had suppressed his aura to disguise himself. Senior brother Jian Ming, quickly use grandfather's talisman. This Yingshan immortal courtyard is sinister. This person must be a Dharma adept who has hidden his cultivation. We are definitely no match for him. Perfected Jian Ming was evenly matched with him because perfected Shen Tian had suffered a blow from the three heroes of the Gu clan. He had already noticed that junior brother Wang was absent-minded when he was helping him. He had originally thought that it was because junior brother Wang had been injured earlier and was not strong enough. However, his shout made perfected Jian Ming regret bringing him out this time. If junior brother Wang could harden his heart and fight with all his might, perhaps he could also suppress perfected Shen Tian. If he could defeat perfected Shen Tian before the three heroes of the Gu clan were defeated, then the two of them could turn around and help the three heroes of the Gu clan. Perfected Shen Tian, who had just appeared, might be defeated by the five of them together. However, this junior brother Wang had obviously placed all his hopes on others. He did not know that he had to fight for his own status. Even if the Yinghe sect had joined the Gu clan, they still had to show their worth in order to be valued. Did he not know that their actions could not escape the attention of perfected Jian Laozu? Indeed, just as junior brother Wang finished speaking, an angry snort sounded in Lu Ping's divine will. This cold snort seemed to contain a trace of resentment as it rang in junior brother Wang's ears. Junior brother Wang jumped out of the battle with perfected Shen Tian in shock. He immediately reacted to the voice of his grandfather, Changhe Laozu. For a moment, junior brother Wang seemed to be at a loss as to what to do. Although junior brother Wang had not used his full strength, he was still at the 7th level of the core forging stage. He had more or less assisted perfected Jian Ming, which was why perfected Jian Ming had been able to maintain a stalemate with perfected Jian Ming. However, junior brother Wang's sudden retreat from the battle caused the pressure on perfected Jian Ming to multiply. In his heart he had already cursed junior brother Wang, but on the surface, he looked helpless. Just as Changhe Laozu's sneak attack sounded in Lu Ping's divine will, Lu Ping seemed to be prepared. A portion of his divine will that he had hidden earlier suddenly exploded, forming an invisible divine will barrier around his body, blocking Changhe Laozu's divine will. However, Changhe Laozu was still at the peak of the early Dharma stage. Although he had been seriously injured in the battle against the Shura and the demonic Shuras, which had delayed his advancement to the mid-Dharma stage, the past 10 years of cultivation had made his peak Dharma stage seem even more experienced. When Changhe Laozu's cold snort sounded, the Gu clan's three heroes' gloomy faces finally showed some relief. Immediately, the three of them acted as if they had a tacit understanding and were about to counterattack. From their point of view, under the attack of Changhe Laozu's divine will, even if Lu Ping's divine will did not shatter, it would still be greatly damaged and his strength would drop. However, just as the three of them were about to rush forward and attack, they suddenly realized in shock that although Lu Ping's face was pale, there was a hint of mockery in the corner of his mouth. Without waiting for the three of them to realize that something was wrong, they saw a wave of swords that was even more ferocious than before descend from the sky. There were even 2 sword dragons hidden in the wave of swords, waiting for an opportunity to attack the three of them. With the beautiful autumn dew sword in hand, Lu Ping, who had already advanced to the 8th level of the core forging stage, had already reached a higher level in terms of the power of the great river flows east. Lu Ping had not used his full strength earlier because he wanted to quickly familiarize himself with the power of the great river flows east. This person was actually not afraid of Chang He Laozu's divine will attack. Could it be that he was really a Dharma adept? The ferocious and sharp sword light once again tore through the defenses of the Gu clan's 3 heroes. As the 3 heroes looked on in despair, the 2 sword dragons swayed their huge mouths made up of sharp blades and bit towards the 3 of them. "Hey, how dare you, young man? Have mercy!" 2 powerful voices rang out one after the other. Lu Ping's heart sank. There were actually 2 Dharma adepts. The killing intent in Lu Ping's heart plummeted, but he was determined to teach his opponents a lesson. The Gu clan's 3 heroes, who had already closed their eyes and waited for death, suddenly felt a heavy blow to their chests. Several of their ribs were broken, and their chests visibly caved in. However, Lu Ping's control of the fire was precise, and he did not injure their hearts. The Gu clan's 3 heroes were seriously injured and unconscious, but Lu Ping suddenly appeared next to Xian Tianjinren. Enlightened Master Jian Ming was shocked and hurriedly retreated, but junior brother Wang was already far away. To enlightened Master Jian Ming's surprise, Lu Ping did not join forces with Xian Tianjinren to attack. Instead, the 2 of them retreated. Enlightened Master Jian Ming seemed to have thought of something. When he turned his head, he saw a spatial door suddenly open in midair. Chang He Laozu and another Dharma adept emerged from the door. Chapter 703. Lu Ping seemed to have predicted that Chang He Laozu would appear. After dragging Xian Tianjinren away from the battle, Xian Tianjinren turned around to look and saw 2 early Dharma adepts walking out from a portal. Xian Tianjinren sucked in a breath of cold air. 2 Dharma adepts. Even if the 2 of them had avoided the area where the 2 Laozu had appeared, how could the 2 of them escape from 2 Dharma adepts? However, Lu Ping did not seem to be worried about this. Chang He Laozu and the other Dharma adept did not chase after Lu Ping and Xian Tianjinren for some reason. They did not even look at where the 2 of them were. After Chang He Laozu appeared from the portal, his expression turned ugly. He looked at a place not far behind the 2 of them and said in a low voice, "I don't know where you came from, but why did you set up a training ground in such a remote and barren place like the Yingshan Mountains?" Xian Tianjinren's face lit up. When he turned around to look, he realized that Guotianshan Laozu had already appeared not far behind the 2 of them. Guotianshan Laozu laughed and said, "You must be joking, Brother Changhe. The Yingshan Mountains have no owner, so why can't I set up a training ground here? As for my background, I'm just a lone practitioner who happened to obtain this level of practice by chance. I just want to set up a pure land and pass down what I've learned. Thank you, Brother Changhe." A gust of hot air came out of Chang He Laozu's nostrils as he laughed coldly. What a joke! Who in the world of practice doesn't know that the Yingshan Mountains have long belonged to the Yingshan, Yinghe, and Daoyu sects? Don't you think it's too despicable of you to take advantage of the chaos when the Shura and Xioma sects were wreaking havoc? Patriarch Guotianshan sneered and said, "Your words are not without reason. However, when I arrived, the 3 dojo that you mentioned had already been razed to the ground by the Shura sect and the Xioma sect. Not a single cultivator from the 3 sects that you mentioned survived. After that, our sect was established, and Patriarch Yushang inherited the teachings of the Yingshan sect and the Space Dao sect, creating the Yushan sect. I admire fellow Taoist Yushang's character, so I gave up the territories that we previously occupied to the Yingshan sect and the Space Dao sect. Although our sect still occupies a large portion of the Yingshan sect's territory, I have never seen any disciples of the Yingshan sect come here to restore their sect's teachings. Just as Tianshan Laozu finished speaking, an ignorant voice rang out. What a joke! With my grandfather, Changhe Laozu, here, who would dare to inherit the Yinghe sect? The person who spoke was none other than junior brother Wang, who had regained his courage after seeing Changhe Laozu. Tianshan Laozu acted as if he had not heard anyone speak. He just smiled and looked at Changhe Laozu and the other Dharma adept. The Dharma adept next to Patriarch Long River gave Patriarch Long River a meaningful look. Patriarch Long River's face was so dark that it looked like it was about to drip water. Reverend Jian Ming's expression changed. He turned around and said in a low voice, "Junior brother, don't be rude." Junior brother Wang did not realize that he was like a clown in front of Laozu. He continued to say, "Isn't that the case?" Reverend Jian Ming had already scolded this spoiled brat in his heart. However, he still maintained a helpless expression on his face. Just as he was about to say something, a clear voice in front of him said, "My friend, you seem to be making a mistake. I wonder if Changhe Laozu is an adjunct of the Gu family or the leader of the Yinghe sect." Junior brother Wang suddenly remembered that there was a Dharma adept from the Gu family beside Changhe Laozu. Only then did he realize that he had said the wrong thing. Just as he did not know how to respond to Lu Ping's sarcasm, he heard Lu Ping continue. If Changhe Laozu is the leader of the Yinghe sect, that means that the Yinghe sect has not joined the Gu family. However, if Changhe Laozu has become an adjunct of the Gu family, and the former adjunct of the Yinghe sect has joined the Gu family, then Changhe Laozu will naturally not be a disciple of the Yinghe sect. I believe that Changhe Laozu would not be someone who would betray his master, right? Junior brother Wang pointed at Lu Ping and was speechless. Previously, because he had two Laozu backing him up, he had been too proud and arrogant. However, Lu Ping had taken advantage of his weakness and continuously mocked him. Unfortunately, the Yinghe sect was weak and had joined the Gu family, so they could not refute him. At this moment, even Changhe Laozu's face was full of anger and humiliation. "Shut up." Junior brother Wang was so frightened by the furious Changhe Laozu that his head retracted into his shoulders and he kept his mouth shut. At this moment, the other Dharma adept raised his hand and summoned the three strong bodies of the Gu family. He placed 3 spirit pills into each of their mouths and then patted each of their chests. The 3 men, who had been knocked unconscious by Lu Ping, immediately regained consciousness. The broken ribs in their bodies were also straightened by this Laozu's pat. Although their injuries hadn't fully healed and their chest and abdomen were still in excruciating pain, such injuries were nothing to a late core forging realm cultivator. However, the 3 of them looked at Lu Ping with anger in their eyes, and eventually, a hint of admiration. This Laozu smiled at the 3 of them and said, "The 3 of you have always been arrogant in your clan. You relied on your combination attack technique to defeat ordinary peak core forging adepts. You think that you are invincible below the Dharma adept level, but you do not know that the world of practitioners is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It is not something that you can fathom. Today, losing at the hands of Brother Tianshan's disciple may not be a bad thing for you." When the 3 heard their own Laozu's words, the way they looked at Lu Ping changed once again. The fear from before was gone, leaving only admiration and a burning desire to fight. It was obvious that this Laozu of the Gu family had a deep understanding of the 3 Gu brothers. With just a few simple words, he was able to sweep away the dispiritedness of the 3 Gu brothers' defeat at the hands of Lu Ping. This Laozu raised his head and looked at Lu Ping, then turned to Tianshan Laozu and cupped his hands. He said, "I, Gu Hao, am very impressed that you are able to raise such a disciple. I have seen the disciples of a few large sects and large sections. Their late core forging adepts have the ability to fight against early Dharma adepts. Although these 3 disciples of my Gu family are usually arrogant, they still have some tricks up their sleeves. There are few adepts below the Dharma stage who are a match for them. Yet they were so easily defeated by your disciple. With this level of strength, I am afraid that even I would not be able to defeat him easily." Tianshan Laozu's expression did not change. He only smiled modestly and said, "So it is a friend from the Gu family. You praise me too much. Although this disciple of mine has some tricks up his sleeves, how can he be compared to a disciple from a large sect of the same name? I would not dare to compare him to a friend from the Dharma stage. That would be too arrogant. Right at this moment, Ancestor Gu Hao turned his head slightly to look at an empty space in the distance, and he grinned. May I know if the Tao Universe sect's fellow Taoist Yu Shang has arrived? Why don't you show yourself and have a chat with me? Long River Laozu's heart jumped. He immediately used his divine consciousness to look in the direction that Gu Hao Laozu was looking at. Only then did he realize that there was indeed something strange about this place. When he turned his head to look, he saw that Guitianshan Laozu was still smiling. There was not the slightest hint of surprise on his face. It was obvious that he had already noticed Yu Shang's arrival. However, this was not the only thing that shocked Long River Laozu. Just as he was shocked by the fact that Guitianshan Laozu's level of cultivation was lower than his, but his strength was clearly not weaker than his, he suddenly realized that the 8th level core forging adept standing in front of Guitianshan Laozu, who had mocked his grandson earlier, also had a divine consciousness that was not weaker than his own. Long River Laozu's expression of surprise disappeared, but his heart was still in turmoil. After all, Long River Laozu was at the peak of the early Dharma stage, a practitioner who was about to face his tribulation. His level of cultivation was considered to be something to be proud of among his peers. However, he had first lost to Jiang Tianlin Laozu, and now he was no match for Guitianshan Laozu. Moreover, these two people's levels of cultivation were completely lower than his. Now, there was a demon-like core forging adept minor repairs who was actually not weaker than a Dharma adept. How could this not make Long River Laozu feel disheartened? Perhaps he had been a little too impatient in his eagerness to start his tribulation. Long River Laozu did not know that the setbacks he had suffered recently had inadvertently helped him achieve his dream of successfully advancing to the mid-Dharma stage in the future. Everyone was looking at the empty space. Yushang Laozu suddenly stepped out of thin air and looked in the direction of Long River Laozu. She snorted coldly and stood there, minding her own business, not saying a word to anyone present. Long River Laozu's face was as dark as water as he faced Yushang Laozu. There was a hint of shame in his expression. Gu Hao Laozu clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Since friend Yushang is here, that's great. This time, friend Guitianshan has already shown us the power of the sect that he has established. The Yingshan Immortal Academy indeed has the power to establish itself in the Yingshan mountain range. My Gu family is not a domineering and tyrannical clan, so we will naturally give the Yingshan Immortal Academy and the Yushan faction sufficient respect. Since that's the case, I have something to discuss with the two of you. Can we speak in private?" Guitianshan Laozu and Yushang Laozu looked at each other with tacit understanding, then nodded in Gu Hao Laozu's direction. Gu Hao Laozu's expression did not reveal anything, but Long River Laozu suddenly understood. No wonder friend Gu Hao did not join forces with me to deal with Guitianshan earlier. So Yushang was already on Guitianshan's side. Once we attacked Guitianshan, Yushang would definitely help. This was no wonder. This time, the Gu family had already decided to expand their territory in the Yingshan mountain range. This way, once the Yingshan Immortal Academy was chased out of the Yingshan mountain range, the next target would naturally be the Yushan faction. Without the lips, the teeth would be interdependent. Yushang would definitely have to join forces with Guitianshan in order to protect their respective foundations. It was a pity that the Gu family had also lost much of their strength in defending against the Shura and Xiuma cultivators. Otherwise, the Yingshan mountain range would not have sent just one Dharma adept, Gu Hao, to expand their territory. The four Laozus disappeared. Lu Ping and Xian Tianjinren also returned to the Immortal Academy. However, at this time, news of Lu Ping's achievements had already spread throughout the Yingshan Immortal Academy. The three core forging adepts from the North Sea had already dealt with the most mysterious elder Xian Ping of the Immortal Academy. The news of him fighting 1 against 3 and heavily injuring opponents of the same level as him spread throughout the Immortal Academy, causing the blood of many Immortal Academy disciples to boil. As for the core forging adepts and a few late blood condensation adepts from the North Sea, Expressions of surprise appeared on their faces. They all said, "So that's how it is. No wonder, no wonder." However, the other immortal academies and adepts asked curiously, "Could it be that you already knew about Elder Xianping?" These adepts smiled but did not say anything. However, their expressions all revealed yearning and admiration. Half a day later, Lu Ping once again received the talisman from Guotianshan and Laozu. After reading the contents, Lu Ping sank into deep thought for a moment. Then he put the talisman back. His body turned into a stream of water and directly entered the Ying River from the cave abode. He flowed along with the surging Ying River. The disciples of the Yingshan Immortal Academy were still immersed in the fervor brought about by Elder Xianping's tyrannical strength. However, they did not know that this mysterious elder had already secretly left the Immortal Academy. Chapter 704. Several days later, a piece of news spread among the various powers and itinerant cultivators in the Yingshan mountain range. After Long River Laozu joined the Gu clan and led the Gu clan's forces back to the Yingshan mountain range, the newly risen Yingshan Immortal Academy and the Mountain Universe sect, which was formed by the remnants of the Tao Universe sect and Yingshan sect, had no choice but to join forces to resist the Gu clan. There was a huge battle outside the Yingshan Immortal Academy. Two late-stage core forging elders, Adept Xiantian and Adept Xianping, had joined forces to defeat Adept Jianming, Wang Jianji, and the three heroes of the Gu clan. The three heroes of the Gu clan's combined attack was famous among the late-stage core forging cultivators in the cultivation world north of the flowing Flower River. Even though they were only at the 8th level of the core forging realm, the three of them had once fought and won against three 9th-level core forging cultivators. However, this time, they were defeated by an elder of the Yingshan Immortal Academy, Adept Xianping, who was also at the 8th level of the core forging realm, with a pair of flying swords. The three of them were heavily injured, and in the end, Long River Laozu and Gu Hao, the two Transcendence cultivators, had to appear. Only then did Adept Xianping retreat. This battle made the various powers in the Yingshan mountain range realize that the rise of the Yingshan Immortal Academy was not due to Guotianshan Laozu's power alone. Yingshan Immortal Academy had also obtained the recognition of the cultivation world of Hebei through this battle. Adept Xianping had also begun to enter the eyes of the various powers in Hebei. Lu Ping followed the Ying River and traveled hundreds of kilometers downstream. The Ying River twisted and turned in the Yingshan mountain range. After countless twists and turns, it finally broke through the encirclement of the Yingshan mountain range and entered the flatlands of Hebei, the second largest river in the Middle Lands, the Yulon River. As a result, Lu Ping followed the Ying River downstream for close to 1,000 kilometers. Not only did he not leave Yingshan mountain range, he even reached the central, southern region of Yingshan mountain range. This was also the place where Guotianshan, Yushang, Changhe, and Gu Hao, the four Laozu families, had discussed after the previous battle. The terrain here was low and flat. From afar, it looked like a huge fist had smashed into the Yingshan mountain range, causing the ground to cave in. One could even see the cracks in the ground that formed gullies. Therefore, this place was also called Godly Fist Basin. After entering the basin, the originally turbulent, abundant river immediately calmed down. The surface of the water surged, and a huge black tortoise carrying a young cultivator who appeared to be in his 20s floated on the surface of the water, swimming down the river. When Lu Ping received the decree from Guotianshan Laozu, he was rather surprised. He had inherited the pure yang soul of the Ying Tian sect's peak Dharma adept, Fei Tian Laozu. He knew the secret places that the Ying Tian sect had opened up in the Yingshan mountain range like the back of his hand. However, he also knew that these secret places had probably been passed down for a long time. Originally, Lu Ping had planned to search for these secret places according to Fei Tian Laozu's memories after he came out of seclusion. Even though the chances were slim, if he could find one, it would undoubtedly be a great boost to the development of the Yingshan Immortal Academy. However, he did not expect that one of the large secret places of inheritance of the Ying Tian sect would still be preserved. These so-called secret places of the Ying Tian sect could actually be divided into 3 levels: the Spirit Gathering Secret Place, the Spirit Veins Secret Place, and the Inheritance Secret Place. The Spirit Gathering Secret Place was actually a spirit gathering place that was rich in spirit energy and opened up into a spirit herb garden or a spirit plant garden. The scale was not large, and only a few simple formations were used to conceal it to prevent wild beasts from destroying the things inside. These so-called secret places were the most numerous. Lu Ping did not expect these so-called secret places, which could be discovered by a core forging cultivator's divine will, to be passed down. The Spirit Vein was a secret place that the Ying Tian sect had opened up using some of the scattered spirit veins in the Ying Shan mountain range. This place was usually protected by a more complete formation, and there were disciples of the Ying Tian sect stationed in the secret place, specializing in protection and cultivation. Although these secret places were more secretive after the destruction of the Ying Tian sect, these secret places were continuously found by cultivators in the Ying Shan mountain range. Now, even Lu Ping was not confident that one or two of these secret places would still exist. The most secretive places were the Inheritance Secret Places. These secret places were generally divided into two types. One was the Inheritance Place that the Ying Tian sect had opened up using a heavenly grotto heaven magic treasure, like the Ying Su treasured mirror that Lu Ping had discovered and taken away by Jiang Tianlin Laozu. The other type was the grotto heaven space that the powerful cultivators of the Ying Tian sect had opened up in the Ying Shan mountain range using some spatial cracks. These two types of secret places were the essence of the Ying Tian sect's inheritance. They were also the true goal of the people behind the destruction of the Ying Tian sect. However, other than cultivators like Fei Tian Laozu in the Ying Tian sect, no one knew how many of these secret places the Ying Tian sect had opened up. Even a cunning rabbit had 3 burrows, let alone a large sect that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. For thousands of years, what truly attracted the cultivators of the various sects to come to the Ying Shan mountain range were these large secret inheritances that had yet to be discovered. Once found, it would be a lifetime of wealth for any cultivator. The secret place that Lu Ping was looking for in the Divine Fist Basin was an inheritance secret place that was opened up in a spatial crack that was passed down by the Ying Tian sect. This secret place was called the Broken Bone Grotto Heaven by the Ying Tian sect, but it was now called the Fist Valley Grotto Heaven. During the battle that destroyed the Ying Tian sect, Fei Tian Laozu originally wanted to transfer the treasures in this grotto heaven to the dojo, but unexpectedly, he was stopped by a cultivator of the same realm. This cultivator did not know Fei Tian Laozu's intentions. When a Fei Tian Laozu wanted to escape, he simply punched down and wanted to stop him from escaping. However, he did not expect that the grotto heaven that was opened up in the spatial crack would collapse. Fei Tian Laozu originally thought that this space would definitely no longer exist, but he did not expect that it would be preserved in the end. Moreover, because the depths of the spatial crack were extremely unstable, after suffering an attack from a powerful cultivator, some unknown changes occurred. As a result, although this space was preserved, there were many restrictions that prevented cultivators from entering and leaving as they pleased. This space was originally a secret shared by the Ying He, Ying Shan, and Dao space sects. The space would open once every 300 years, and every time it opened, the large amounts of 500-year-old and 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs produced in the space would be an important source of medicinal pills for the cultivators of the 3 sections. The Ying Shan Immortal Academy naturally did not know about this space, but when the Immortal Academy first expanded its forces, it had unintentionally marked this space as the edge of its territory. As a result, the other 2 sects were slightly unwilling. These 2 sects naturally did not want the Immortal Academy to know about the location of this space. As the space that opened once every 300 years approached, this was also one of the reasons why the Mountain Universe sect and the current Gu family had fought against the Ying Shan Immortal Academy. They hoped to chase the Immortal Academy out of this region and protect the secret here. However, no matter what, the Ying Shan Immortal Academy still withstood the pressure in the end. Yushang Laozu clearly knew that her Mountain Universe sect alone could not maintain a balance with the Gu family in the Ying Shan mountain range. This secret was ultimately revealed to Guotian Shan Laozu when the 4 Laozu discussed it. The talisman that Guotianshan Laozu gave to Lu Ping was naturally in the hope that he could lead the disciples of the Immortal Academy to the secret space. In the past, the three sects had obtained close to 50,000 stalks of 500-year-old spirit herbs and 5,000 stalks of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. This was an enormous wealth that could not be ignored. Lu Ping thought back to when he first entered Fei Ling Island. Back then, the total amount of 500-year spirit herbs collected by the various sects was only equal to the amount produced in this space. As for the 1,000-year spirit herbs, the difference was too great, only 1/10 of the amount produced in this space. It had to be known that Fei Ling Island was where Fei Ling sect's Dao Right was located. Even though this Dao Right had already been plundered, it was still nourished by a large spirit vein. Moreover, it would only appear once every 500 years. This space was merely one of the secret areas opened by the Ying Tian sect, and it would open once every 300 years. This could not be said to be small. Could there really be such a huge difference between the North Sea and the Central Plains? Lu Ping knew that there were naturally many other factors that could not be generalized. However, there was no doubt that the Central Plains was far more fertile than the North Sea's cultivation world. Lu Ping weighed the pros and cons and finally decided to go to this partially collapsed secret space to investigate first. Even though he knew that Guotianshan Laozu must have already investigated this place beforehand, Lu Ping still trusted his own eyes and senses more. His divine will, which was not inferior to that of an early Dharma adept, constantly lingered around a cliff in this basin. Lu Ping's brows furrowed slightly. Clearly, when the opponent who was on par with Fei Tian Laozu smashed down with his fist, the secret space's entrance had been smashed into pieces. Although this secret space was fortunately preserved, the entrance to the secret space had already collapsed. Every 300 years, the collapsed space would recover for a short period of time. However, it was extremely fragile. Once a mid-blood condensation realm cultivator or above entered, the recovered space would collapse again, and the cultivator would die. After several lessons, the three sects came to the conclusion that only adepts who were below the early blood condensation could enter. Naturally, Lu Ping did not come here to verify the lessons he had learned from the three sects' bloody lessons. Instead, he came here because of the records he had obtained from Fei Tian Laozu's pure Yang soul. The Broken Bone Cave Heaven, which was now known as the Fist Valley Cave Heaven, was not only a space that produced 500-year-old spirit herbs and 1,000-year-old spirit herbs, but the number of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs in this cave was also quite considerable. More importantly, this grotto heaven was filled with 3,000-year-old spirit herbs that were extremely rare in the cultivation world. They were essential for refining the spirit forging pill. However, in the past 4,000 years, the three sects' cultivators had not obtained even a single 3,000-year-old spirit herb from the Fist Valley Cave Heaven. Why was that? Chapter 705. The Fist Valley's secret ground would open for 3 months. Each time, the three sects would send 60 early-stage blood condensation cultivators into the secret ground. Each sect would send 20 people. This time, however, it was different. The Gu family was powerful. Even though Patriarch Celestial Mountain and Patriarch Yushang did their best to fight for it, the Yingshan Immortal Academy and Mountain Universe sect only had 18 slots each. As for the Gu family, they had 24. 3 days later, a huge streak of light approached from afar. When it got closer, it turned out to be a huge puppet bird. The bird landed on the ground, and more than 20 cultivators alighted from its back. Apart from enlightened Master Jian Ming and a late core forging cultivator, there was also a mid-core forging cultivator who was greeting the remaining 24 third-layer blood condensation cultivators. The cultivators seemed to be talking to these disciples seriously, and from time to time, the disciples would nod their heads in acknowledgement. After the 2 late-stage core forging cultivators got off the puppet bird, they didn't put it away. Instead, they immediately set up several soundproof restrictions around them. Only then could they see the mid-stage core forging cultivator talking to the disciples. The disciples opened and closed their mouths, but no sound came out. Just when the mid-stage core forging cultivator finished giving some important instructions to the disciples and passed something to the leaders of the 24 disciples, enlightened Master Jianming reached out to break the soundproof restriction around them. He said respectfully to the cultivator, "Thank you, Master Gu." The mid-stage core forging cultivator waved his hand and said, "It's fine. The Fist Valley Grotto Heaven is very important. It's only right to give detailed instructions. It's all thanks to Brother Jianming for telling us everything about the secret ground." Enlightened Master Jianming smiled awkwardly. The late-stage core forging cultivator next to him said, "Fifth brother, you forgot that Brother Jianming is now a guest elder of the clan. You are a member of the Gu clan. Why do you need to say anything?" Master Gu patted his forehead and smiled. "Eighth brother is right. It's my fault. Brother Jianming, please don't blame me." Enlightened Master Jianming quickly waved his hand. "I don't dare." At this moment, enlightened Master Jianming's expression changed. The late-stage core forging cultivator next to him, the eighth brother, said, "Magic Cloud Yarn? Looks like it's Dao Yu. Oh, it's the Mountain Universe sect." Taoist Jianming smiled and said, "That's right. This Magic Cloud muslin belongs to the Dao Universe sect and the current Mountain Universe sect's late core forging cultivator, Pang Feiyun." As soon as enlightened Jianming finished speaking, a colorful cloud separated from the clouds in the sky. The cloud slowly descended and a middle-aged cultivator with a long beard slowly walked down. He looked at the Gu clan cultivator who had arrived first and remained silent. After a while, a late core forging female cultivator descended from the colorful cloud. Behind her were 18 early blood condensation cultivators, all of whom were at the third layer of the blood condensation realm. The female cultivator glanced at the many cultivators of the Gu clan in the distance. Finally, her gaze fixed on Master Gu and she said, "I didn't expect the Gu clan to send Gu Zhou here. Your clan seems to value this Fist Valley space very much." Master Gu smiled and replied, "Didn't your clan also send Master Flying Rainbow to hold the line? I wonder which pill refiner will Yingshan Immortal Academy send here. I heard that this sect has only been established for 10 years. I wonder if they can gather 18 blood condensation cultivators?" Enlightened Flying Rainbow smiled and said, "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint Master Gu Zhou. Although the Yingshan Immortal Academy has only been established for 10 years and their foundation is still shallow, they can still send out 18 blood condensation cultivators." As soon as Enlightened Flying Rainbow finished speaking, a giant boat floated down from upstream of the Ying River. The giant boat flowed with the current and in the blink of an eye, it left the mountains on both sides behind. When the giant boat entered the Fist Valley space, it suddenly stopped in the middle of the river. At this time, the Gu clan's late core forging eighth brother suddenly said, "I wonder who will come from the Yingshan Immortal Academy. It'd be best if it's the mysterious enlightened Xian Ping who defeated 3 of our late core forging cultivators by himself." As soon as the eighth brother said this, not only were the Gu clan's cultivators shocked, but even the Mountain Universe sect's middle-aged cultivator Pang Feiyun and female cultivator Enlightened Flying Rainbow had looks of anticipation on their faces. Master Gu Zhou continued, "I heard that this sage Xianping has never shown his true face to anyone before. Previously, there was a spiritual whirlpool in the Yingshan Immortal Academy. Does everyone think that this so-called sage Xianping is a Dharma adept in disguise?" As soon as Master Gu Zhou finished speaking, the few enlightened masters fell silent. At this time, the giant boat was already slowly approaching the riverbank. At this time, Mountain Universe sect's Pang Feiyun, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "It can't be a Dharma adept." Enlightened Jianming immediately asked, "Oh, Brother Feiyun, do you have any basis for saying that?" However, after Pang Feiyun said this, he did not speak again, causing enlightened Jianming to be greatly embarrassed. Seeing this, enlightened Flying Rainbow laughed and said, "Senior Brother Feiyun has always been like this, please forgive him, enlightened Jianming. However, my uncle Yushang Laozu has previously said that although this enlightened Xianping from the Yingshan Immortal Academy has concealed his true face so that even Dharma adepts cannot see through him, his level of practice is a true 8th level core forging practitioner. Also, from the aura around him, it seems that he has not broken through for too long. Fellow enlightened flying rainbow, could it be that the phenomenon that appeared in the Yingshan Immortal Academy was caused when enlightened Xian Ping broke through to the 8th level core forging practitioner? How is that possible? Isn't a phenomenon like the reverse flow of spiritual energy something that can only happen to Dharma adepts? Enlightened Flying Rainbow laughed and said, "Fellow enlightened Guzhou's words are not without reason. However, if the phenomenon that caused the reverse flow of spiritual energy was not caused by this enlightened Xian Ping, doesn't that mean that other than Guotianshan Laozu, there is another Dharma adept hiding in the dark?" Enlightened Guzhou's expression was one of shock. Next to him, his 8th brother, Enlightened Gu Hun, laughed and said, "I think that it is impossible for there to be two Laozus in the Yingshan Immortal Academy. That phenomenon was either created by Guotianshan Laozu to confuse the public, or it was really caused by enlightened Xian Ping's breakthrough." Enlightened Gu Hun saw that his 6th brother did not understand and was about to retort, so he hurriedly laughed and said, "6th brother, listen to me first. In the past, I followed my second uncle to travel and heard that the elite disciples of some large sects with deep foundations and those large sects that are known as holy lands for cultivation have late core forging practitioners who can match Dharma adepts. When these people break through, even if they are only late core forging practitioners, they can cause a phenomenon like the reverse flow of spiritual energy. There is such a thing? Not just enlightened Guzhou, but the other enlightened masters were also shocked. Why not? Enlightened Gu Hun laughed bitterly and shook his head. Recently, the biggest news in the cultivation world is that Yuan Feixiang of the Yuan clan killed a blood demon at the 9th level of core forging. Although the lightning magic passed down in the Yuan clan is the most effective way to counter Shura and demonic practitioners, it still shocked the cultivation world that a 9th level core forging practitioner could kill a blood demon that is stronger than an ordinary early Dharma adept. And it is said that when this Yuan Feixiang broke through to the 9th level of core forging, he caused the phenomenon of the reverse flow of spiritual energy. This, enlightened Gu Zhou said in disbelief. Could this small Yingshan Immortal Academy produce a disciple that can match those holy lands for cultivation and the #1 clan in the Central Plains? That's hard to say, enlightened Gu Hun said faintly. After all, until now, we still don't know where this Guotianshan Laozu came from. If we say that this Guotianshan Laozu advanced to the Dharma stage as a lone practitioner, although it is not easy, it is not rare. But to say that he can still cultivate a junior that is comparable to an elite disciple of a large sect, that may not be possible. Enlightened Fei Hong also had a pensive look on his face. Hearing enlightened Gu Hun's words, he said, "Fellow Taoist Gu Hun, do you mean that there is an even greater force supporting this Yingshan Immortal Academy?" Enlightened Gu Hun did not deny it. The Yingshan Immortal Academy's giant boat had already neared the riverbank. When everyone looked over, they saw that the person that appeared was not enlightened Xianping whom everyone was expecting, nor was it the other late-stage core forging realm cultivator of Yingshan Immortal Academy, enlightened Xiantian. Instead, it was the current mountain elder of Yingshan Immortal Academy, enlightened Guzhou. When enlightened Guzhou saw that the person following closely behind enlightened Lu Xinyuan was actually a 4th level core forging realm cultivator, he said in a mocking tone, "No matter what, this Yingshan Immortal Academy's foundation is still not enough." This time, they only sent 2 mid-stage core forging realm cultivators to lead the team for the opening of the Fist Valley space. Don't they know that at least 6 late-stage core forging realm cultivators are needed to open the entrance to the collapsed space? Even though Taoist Master Guzhou's voice was soft, how could it escape the ears of the cultivators present? Even the blood condensation realm disciples standing behind them heard it clearly. When they looked at Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan, who was calmly walking towards them, a trace of disdain appeared on their faces. Enlightened Lu Xinyuan turned to the 4th level core forging realm cultivator behind him and instructed, "Junior brother Xianfang, I'll leave it to you to instruct the disciples on some things to take note of after entering the space." Enlightened Xianfang nodded and stretched out his hand to set up a soundproof restriction, enveloping the 18 blood condensation realm disciples that came down from the giant ship. Even though Gu family and mountain space sects cultivators couldn't hear what spiritual master Xianfang was saying, when Immortal Academy's disciples appeared on the giant boat, everyone erupted into commotion, their faces carrying expressions of mockery. Unlike the disciples from the Gu clan and Mountain Universe sect, who were all at the third level of the blood condensation realm, although the 18 disciples from the Yingshan Immortal Academy had all advanced to the blood condensation realm, their cultivation levels were uneven. Only 4 of them were at the third level of the blood condensation realm, 10 of them were at the second level, and 6 of them were at the first level of the blood condensation realm. Contrary to the mockery and contempt on the faces of the disciples from the other sects, the enlightened masters who were leading the core forging realm cultivators looked surprised. It was not because the Yingshan Immortal Academy could not gather 18 early-stage blood condensation realm cultivators. On the contrary, it was because they were able to gather 18 early-stage blood condensation realm disciples. Chapter 706. These enlightened masters were all mid-stage core forging cultivators and above. They were naturally able to see the backgrounds of the Yingshan Immortal Academy's disciples. Among these disciples, only one seemed to have sealed his cultivation from the mid-stage blood condensation realm to the third level. The other 17 disciples were all inner disciples of Immortal Academy. These days, the 2 factions had a certain understanding of Yingshan Immortal Academy's power structure. They also had a certain grasp of the number of disciples in Yingshan Immortal Academy. In the eyes of these enlightened masters, the Yingshan Immortal Academy had only been established for 10 years. In these 10 years, it had grown from nothing to something. With the current scale of recruitment, it would already be considered good if they could produce 10 blood condensation disciples. Moreover, most of them would be at the first level of the blood condensation realm. Even if there were some geniuses who could reach the second level of the blood condensation realm, it would be extremely rare. However, the truth was that not only did Yingshan Immortal Academy's inner disciples exceed their expectations, they even had 3 third-level blood condensation cultivators and 10 second-level blood condensation cultivators. How could these enlightened masters not be shocked? Originally, both sects had sent spies to infiltrate Yingshan Immortal Academy as outer sect disciples. Some of these spies were only in the early stage of blood condensation. According to the 2 sects' original guess, if Yingshan Immortal Academy couldn't gather 18 early-stage blood condensation disciples, they could only choose from the outer sect disciples. As such, there was a high chance that these spies would be chosen. Once these spies entered the Fist Valley space, the 2 factions would definitely be able to make Yingshan Immortal Academy suffer a loss in the Fist Valley space. Although this method wouldn't shake Yingshan Immortal Academy's foundation, it could slow down their development. Even though Mountain Universe sect needed to borrow the power of Immortal Academy to fight against the Gu clan, they clearly didn't want another equally powerful Yingshan Immortal Academy to appear in the process of fighting against the Gu clan. Since there was such a chance, Mountain Universe sect naturally wouldn't mind making Yingshan Immortal Academy suffer a loss. But now, Yingshan Immortal Academy's disciples were all inner sect disciples. These disciples were all seedlings that Yingshan Immortal Academy had recruited from the surrounding mortal villages by activating their bloodlines. They had clean backgrounds and had grown up in Yingshan Immortal Academy. They viewed Yingshan Immortal Academy as their second parent. It would be very difficult for the 2 sects to convert such disciples in a short period of time. These enlightened masters naturally knew some of the secrets of their sections. When they saw the Yingshan Immortal Academy bring out 18 blood condensation disciples, they recalled enlightened Master Gu Hun's speculation that the Yingshan Immortal Academy might be a large sect that had secretly infiltrated the Yingshan mountain range. This time, they were more convinced of this speculation. Compared to the other enlightened masters who valued Yingshan Immortal Academy a little more, enlightened Guzhou was looking at enlightened Xianfang in the soundproof restriction with a serious expression. When enlightened Master Fei Hong saw that enlightened Guzhou was looking elsewhere, he also followed his gaze and looked at enlightened Xianfang. After a while, he said with some surprise, "This Yingshan Immortal Academy really isn't a newly established faction. This enlightened master doesn't look old, and his cultivation has only just broken through to the middle stage of core forging. However, if I'm not wrong, I'm afraid he's an alchemy master. Enlightened Gu Zhou nodded and said, if this Gutan Shan established Ying Shan Immortal Academy on a whim, how could he have prepared every aspect of a sect in a short 10 years? With the words of the two alchemy masters, Pang Feiyun, Gu Han, and enlightened Jian Ming naturally didn't doubt them. Thus, they valued Ying Shan Immortal Academy even more. An alchemy master wasn't something that could be achieved easily. It was as difficult for an itinerant cultivator to become an alchemy master as it was for an itinerant cultivator to reach the Dharma manifestation stage. Although alchemy masters had a transcendent status in the cultivation world, their achievements couldn't be separated from a large amount of spiritual herbs for them to practice with. Without the support of a faction, it was extremely difficult to achieve anything. After enlightened Xian Fang finished giving his instructions, he removed the soundproof restriction and heard enlightened Gu Zhou say, I wonder which two late-stage core forging Taoists your sect has sent. This Fist Valley space requires 6 late-stage core forging cultivators to work together to open it. If it's only Taoist Lu Shenyuan, I think it's fine not to open the Fist Valley space. Lu Shenyuan was only at the 6th level of core forging realm. When he heard this, he smiled unhurriedly and said, Taoist Lu, you worry too much. When the space opens, my sect will naturally send someone over. Enlightened Gu Zhou didn't ask who would come. Ying Shan Immortal Academy currently only had enlightened Xian Ping and enlightened Xian Tian, 2 late-stage core forging elders. If there were other late-stage core forging cultivators from Ying Shan Immortal Academy that came, it would only mean that Ying Shan Immortal Academy's hidden power was even stronger. Spiritual Master Gu Hun's thoughts ran deeper. He had once traveled the world, and his horizons and knowledge were not comparable to those around him. But now, he recalled an explosive rumor about the overseas cultivation world that he had heard decades ago in the East River. In the East Sea, a power called the Carefree Sect suddenly rose up and broke through the many obstacles of the Crystal Palace, sailing their treasured ship to the Tianyue sect of the Central Plains. They formed an alliance with the Tianyue sect, which had always been the first to bear the brunt of the Crystal Palace's attempts to extend their power into the Central Plains. They built an ultra-long-distance teleportation matrix, causing the Carefree Sect to live up to its name as a large sect. Before this Carefree Sect rose up, it had changed its name to Boudoir and operated as a secret power for many years. Only then did it grow strong under the nose of the Crystal Palace. Once it rose up, even the Crystal Palace did not expect it. It was a classic case of a fire in their own backyard. This caused the Crystal Palace, which had always dominated the East Sea and expanded its power everywhere, to lose a lot of face in the cultivation world. Could it be that Ying Shan Immortal Academy was also a chess piece of some sect to expand its power? Perfected Gu Hun's heart sank. If this was really the case, the Gu clan really could not shed all pretense of cordiality. If the power behind the other party became angry out of humiliation, the Gu clan could barely be considered a medium-sized power in the Central Plains cultivation world. There were 3 mid-Dharma adepts and 5 early Dharma adepts in the clan. They might not be able to withstand the anger of the other party. As Perfected Gu Hun thought of this, he heard Perfected Gu Zhou turn to ask Xian Fang, who was behind Perfected Lu Xinyuan, this young friend is not bad. Recently, you seem to have been refining some mid-core forging elixirs. It seems that your success rate in refining mid-core forging elixirs is not low. Perfected Gu Hun was stunned. He knew that this was Perfected Gu Zhou's intention to establish his power. A few days ago, in the Battle of Ying Shan Immortal Academy, the 3 heroes of the Gu clan were defeated by the opposing elder, Perfected Xianping, with 2 swords. This time, Perfected Gu Zhou clearly wanted to regain this face. Perfected Gu Hun wanted to stop him, but thinking that alchemists had their own rules of the alchemy world, it was better for him not to interfere. Moreover, Perfected Gu Hun was very dissatisfied with the fact that Ying Shan Immortal Academy had trampled on the 3 heroes of the Gu clan to establish their own foundation. Naturally, he was happy to see the other party make a fool of himself. Perfected Xian Fang was stunned when he heard Perfected Gu Zhou's words. He immediately knew that the other party was provoking him. There were two main types of sparring between alchemists in the world of alchemy. The first type was to compete in alchemy. If the level was serious, it could even directly trigger a cauldron-smashing agreement until one side admitted defeat and destroyed the cauldron, completely withdrawing from the alchemy world. This was also considered a duel in the alchemy world. Back then, Lu Ping had once made a cauldron-smashing agreement with Yu Jiangrui in the Qinyuan Palace of the Northern Alliance in the East Sea. Later, after mediation by the Northern Alliance's Hongye Laozu, Perfected Qin, and the others, although Yu Jiangrui did not smash his cauldron, he was now the alchemy master of Soundwave Island, which Lu Ping managed in the East Sea. The other type was to probe each other's secrets. Alchemists dealt with flames, cauldrons, and various kinds of spirit herbs all year round. It was inevitable that they would reveal their achievements in alchemy as well as other secrets. This method of alchemists was to see who could see through the other side's secrets, guess the other side's alchemy level, and know that the other side bowed their head in respect. Although Perfected Xianfang was also an alchemy genius, he had only been an alchemy master for a few decades. How could his experience be compared to someone like Perfected Guzhou, who had been immersed in alchemy for hundreds of years? Although Perfected Xianfang also tried to find some clues from Perfected Guzhou, he had to admit that Perfected Guzhou's alchemy skills were above his own. He couldn't detect any subtle changes in Perfected Guzhou's alchemy skills. He could only cup his hands and say, "Your Excellency's alchemy skills must be extraordinary. Refining a late core forging pill is not a problem." Perfected Guzhou smiled proudly and said, "That's right. I can see that Your Excellency has recently been refining a pill suitable for cultivators with metal attribute bloodlines. I wonder if Your Excellency can guess what pill I've been refining recently?" Perfected Xianfang's face turned red. Just as he released his divine sense, it was blocked by a divine sense that was far stronger than his. He couldn't find anything from Perfected Guzhou. At this time, Perfected Master Fei Hong from the Mountain Universe sect seemed to be unable to hold back his loneliness. He opened his mouth and giggled, "Little friend, the pill you've refined recently shouldn't have been more than 3 days ago. Looking at the residual pill qi around little friend's body, I'm afraid your success rate is not low." Both of them called Perfected Master Xianfang little friend. Perfected Master Xianfang was an alchemy grandmaster and was respected by many. Now that he was being looked down upon, his alchemy skills were inferior to these two, and his cultivation was even worse. His face turned red with anger, but he couldn't refute a single word. Just as Perfected Master Lu Xinyuan sensed that something was wrong and was about to change the topic, he saw Perfected Master Xianfang's eyes brighten when he looked behind him. Perfected Master Lu Xinyuan immediately guessed something and was delighted. Everyone also noticed the abnormality in Perfected Master Xianfang's expression. When they turned to look, they didn't know when, but behind the Mountain Universe sect and the Gu clan, which was in front of the Yingshan Immortal Academy disciples, a cultivator had suddenly appeared there without anyone noticing. When Perfected Master Jian Ming saw this person, he immediately felt a bitter taste in his mouth. However, his expression was still calm as he forced a smile and said, "So it's Perfected Master Xian Ping." The other cultivators from the Mountain Universe sect and the Gu clan were shocked. They saw this cultivator who looked to be around the same age as Perfected Master Xianfang appear behind them without anyone noticing. If this person launched a sneak attack, they didn't know who would be able to block it. When they thought of the method this person used to defeat the Gu clan's 3 heroes, they watched as Perfected Master Xian Ping walked through the 2 sects cultivators as if there was no one around and walked towards the Yingshan Immortal Academy disciples. They unconsciously took 2 steps back to make way for him. Chapter 707. Other than one of the 18 blood condensation disciples standing behind Taoist Xianfang, none of them knew what Taoist Xianfang and the 2 core forging enlightened masters were talking about. However, they could tell that Taoist Xianfang was at a disadvantage in the argument. Naturally, they were all holding back their anger. When they heard Taoist Jian Ming say that this person was Immortal Academy's most mysterious elder Xian Ping, the disciples' spirits were shaken. Even though they had long heard that this elder Xian Ping was a cultivator even younger than elder Xian Tian, they still couldn't help but exclaim in surprise when they saw Lu Ping. As Lu Ping's cultivation continued to increase, his youthful appearance attracted more and more attention. Although Lu Ping used a face-changing secret technique to hide his true appearance, his youthfulness did not change at all. Although Lu Ping had the recipe for the Agerasia pill and would occasionally refine some Agerasia pills for sale in the pill pavilion, he had never taken a pill himself. The reason why Lu Ping was still able to maintain the appearance of a young man in his 20s was not only because of his long lifespan, but also because he had refined 2 portions of Myriad Wonder Jade Dew, a total of 72 drops of Myriad Wonder Jade Dew. This kind of heaven-grade spirit item had the effect of prolonging one's lifespan, and one of its side effects was to slow down the aging of one's face. Lu Ping strode to Taoist Lu Xianyuan and said with a smile, "Greetings, Senior Brother Lu." Although Lu Xianyuan did not know why Lu Ping came to the Fist Valley in advance, he knew that Lu Ping had been to the Ying Tian Dojo before, so he might know something that others did not. "So," he asked with a smile, "have you gained anything these days?" Lu Ping nodded with a smile and said, "Although it's disappointing, at least I have some confidence in my heart." After saying that, he turned to Taoist Xian Fong and said with a smile, "Junior brother, your alchemy skills have improved recently." Taoist Master Xian Fong sighed and said, "I've made senior brother laugh at me. Originally, junior brother had made some progress in refining mid-core forging pills, so I planned to refine late-core forging pills. But today, I realized that I was biting off more than I could chew." Lu Ping chuckled and said, "Why do you have to be like this? These two are alchemy masters who have been practicing alchemy for hundreds of years. That flying rainbow Shinrin is an alchemy master who can refine elixirs that are half a step to the Dharma stage. From the time you started practicing until now, you haven't even been a master for as long as they have. How can you possibly be a match for them? If you had reached their age, I'm afraid you would have already become an alchemy grandmaster. They wouldn't be able to catch up to you even if they whipped their horses." Lu Ping's words caused Taoist Master Xian Fong's eyes to light up. But then he remembered that Lu Ping's cultivation time was actually about the same as his own, but Lu Ping was already an alchemy grandmaster and had great strength. Taoist Master Xian Fong couldn't help but sigh. Lu Ping patted his shoulder and looked at the Immortal Academy disciples behind him. When he saw that Du Jiaohua was among them, Lu Ping wasn't too surprised. But when he saw that Tianyu, who was originally at the 6th level of the blood condensation realm, had also sealed his cultivation, he couldn't help but frown. Lu Ping turned to look at Master Flying Rainbow and Master Gu Zhou behind him. Both of them had obviously heard Lu Ping's words of admonition to Taoist Master Xian Fong, especially Master Flying Rainbow. When Lu Ping had seen through his alchemy realm, he couldn't help but feel a little frightened. This person had such a high cultivation. Could it be that he was also proficient in alchemy? If that was really the case, then what kind of realm had his alchemy reached? Before Master Flying Rainbow and Master Gu Zhou could figure out this problem, they heard Lu Ping's calm voice suddenly say, "Void Flame Pill." Master Flying Rainbow was stunned, while Master Gu Zhou's expression changed greatly. However, Lu Ping didn't stop there. He looked at enlightened Master Gu Zhou and said, "You haven't concocted any medicinal pellets in the past 3 days, so this cauldron of medicinal pellets must have been concocted 3 days ago. However, the success rate doesn't seem to be too high. It should be below 50%, but it should be above 30%. Enlightened Master Gu Zhou stared at Lu Ping in a daze, speechless. 3 days ago, he had indeed concocted the void flame pellets with a success rate of around 40%. But how could this person in front of him know that? Master Gu Zhou couldn't sense the slightest bit of smoke around Lu Ping. This could only mean that this person's alchemy skills were far superior to his, or he wasn't an alchemist at all. Moreover, no matter what, Master Gu Zhou felt that Master Xian Ping was the second type. But if he wasn't an alchemist, how could he have such an understanding of alchemy? This was not a realm that could be reached through experience and foresight. Without personally practicing alchemy, it was impossible to understand the mutual scheming between alchemists. Master Gu Zhou's attitude changed greatly, and he asked carefully, "May I ask if you are an alchemy grandmaster?" Master Gu Zhou's words made Master Gu Hun and Master Jianming tremble. They naturally knew how high the status of an alchemy grandmaster was. An alchemy grandmaster at the core forging stage had a status comparable to a Dharma adept in the cultivation world. Although the Gu family's strength wasn't too high among the middle-sized forces in Central Plains, they still had some ambition. However, the Gu family's biggest weakness was that they didn't have an alchemy grandmaster in the family, and this weakness had greatly hindered the Gu family's development and strength for the past few hundred years. Therefore, no one could have a stronger desire for an alchemy grandmaster than the Gu family practitioners. Reverend Pang Feiyun of the Mountain Universe sect, who had always been a man of few words, also had a change in expression. He glanced at Reverend Fei Hong, who was beside him, and saw that Reverend Fei Hong's expression was serious. Lu Ping smiled and didn't answer Master Gu Zhou's question. His divine will was comparable to that of a Dharma adept like Changhe Laozu. If he didn't want to, these two people, even though they were alchemy grandmasters, and their divine wills were superior compared to other adepts of the same level, how could they compare to Lu Ping? Naturally, they wouldn't be able to discover anything. What's more, Lu Ping cultivated a water elemental cultivation technique. Compared to most alchemists in the cultivation world who cultivated wood elemental or fire elemental cultivation techniques, his identity as an alchemist was undoubtedly more concealed and deceptive. Lu Ping then turned to look at Reverend Fei Hong and said, "My friend, the alchemy pill you refined earlier was the Qilin pill? Although this kind of pill is ordinary among alchemy pills half a step into the Dharma stage, it's a rather good pill for a core forging adept who has merged with a third type of spiritual item." Reverend Fei Hong's face turned pale. He wanted to say something, but there was only bitterness in his voice. The Qilin pill was considered ordinary? She was the top alchemist of the Mountain Universe sect, and her position in the sect had always been high. Even Yushang Laozu favored her, hoping that she would become the first alchemy grandmaster of the Mountain Universe sect. However, Reverend Fei Hong knew how difficult it was to become an alchemy grandmaster. Although she had already concocted a half-step Dharma realm medicinal pellet, just as Lu Ping had said, the Qipang pellet was only one of the most common and low-grade medicinal pellets among the half-step Dharma realm medicinal pellets. There was still a long way to go before it could be used to concoct a cultivation-level medicinal pellet. And now, the Qilin pill could be said to be the limit of her alchemy skills. A faint green light flashed in Lu Ping's eyes, and the divine senses that were drifting around Reverend Gu Zhou and Reverend Fei Hong also withdrew without them realizing it. However, it seemed that Lu Ping did not intend to stop there, and he turned to look at Reverend Gu Zhou. Reverend Gu Zhou's heart skipped a beat for no reason, and he heard Lu Ping say, "You used a mid-earth level spiritual fire, right? This grade of spiritual fire is enough to refine the void flame pill." However, although the void flame pill is only a late core forging stage alchemy pill, its medicinal effects are fierce like fire. Cultivators who consume this pill will either waste a large portion of the medicinal effects, or their cultivation will increase by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. Lu Ping ignored Reverend Gu Zhou's shocked expression and continued, "Therefore, it is best to use a high earth level spiritual fire for this type of pill. Only then can the medicinal effects of the pill be even more fierce. I presume that the cultivators in your family who can consume this type of pill have already learned how to control the fierce medicinal effects. Thus, even if you use a high earth level spiritual fire, you won't have to worry about wasting the medicinal effects. Instead, it can further promote their cultivation." Reverend Gu Zhou hesitated for a moment, as if he was thinking about what Lu Ping had said. After a moment, although he was unwilling, he still bowed to Lu Ping and said, "Thank you for your guidance." When Lu Ping turned to look at Reverend Fei Hong, he saw a pair of eager eyes, as if eagerly waiting for something. Lu Ping was startled for a moment, then said, "Your alchemy skills are already quite high. Originally, I didn't want to say much, but the wondrous panacea is all about the word strange, yet you used the conventional alchemy method to refine it. Although with your alchemy skills, you still managed to form the pill, the success rate was still affected." Reverend Fei Hong's eyes flickered. Just like Reverend Gu Zhou, he bowed to Lu Ping and thanked him. In the world of alchemy, those who had reached the pinnacle were first. With just a few words, Lu Ping had subdued the two alchemy masters who had just made Reverend Xian Fang into a sorry state. With just a few pointers, the two alchemy masters bowed and thanked him. Not to mention the disciples from Immortal Academy whose faces were already filled with admiration. Even Jian Ming, Gu Hun, and Pang Feiyun, the three reverends, had looks of disbelief on their faces. Their gazes towards Lu Ping had also changed from reverence to respect. The moment Reverend Lu Xinyuan appeared, he knew that Lu Ping would definitely humiliate himself through the competition between alchemy masters. What a joke! What was Lu Ping's identity? Zhenling was the youngest alchemy grandmaster. Lu Xinyuan had heard his teacher, Guotianshan Laozu, mention it in private. Tianlu Laozu had once said with a sigh that the day Lu Ping reached the Dharma stage would be the day his alchemy skills would surpass his own. Furthermore, Lu Xinyuan had guessed from the hints in Guotianshan Laozu's words that Lu Ping seemed to have several secret pill formulas on him. These pill formulas might even be precious items that could affect Zhenling's future, and Guotianshan Laozu's advancement to the Dharma stage also seemed to be directly related to Lu Ping. Reverend Lu Xinyuan knew that his teacher was actually hinting to him to maintain the friendship he had established with Lu Ping in Zhenling's side courtyard. That way, it might be of great help to him in the future when he advanced to the Dharma stage. Chapter 708. In fact, what perfected Lu Xinyuan didn't know was that after Zhenling obtained many inheritances from the Ying Tian sect, Lu Ping was naturally most concerned about the inheritance related to alchemy. Naturally, Zhenling wouldn't hide anything from Lu Ping. In the past 10 years, apart from closed-door cultivation, Lu Ping had been studying alchemy and reading the inheritance ancient books. In addition, he had received the pure Yang soul inheritance from Fei Tian Laozu, so his knowledge level had been significantly improved. He was no longer the same as the Lu Ping who had just become an alchemy guru 10 years ago. Putting aside the fact that Lu Ping's words made perfected Guzhou and perfected Fei Hong lose their reserve and pride in front of Lu Ping, perfected Lu Xinyuan saw that although Lu Ping had the upper hand, it also made the situation a little awkward. Hence, he smiled and said, "Since we're all here, there shouldn't be much difference in time. I think we should start preparing to open the Fist Valley space now." Perfected Lu Xuanyuan's words received everyone's approval, but perfected Jianming looked at Lu Ping with some hesitation and said, "Opening the Fist Valley space now is naturally not a problem, but opening the Fist Valley space requires the cooperation of 6 late-stage core forging realm cultivators. We naturally won't doubt perfected Lu Xuanyuan's strength, but it's inevitably a little inappropriate if one person takes care of 2 places to open the formation." Perfected Lu Xinyuan was stunned. Tianshan Laozu didn't tell him about this before they came. Now it seemed that Tianshan Laozu only sent Lu Ping, a late-stage core forging realm cultivator. Now that he heard perfected Jianming's words, perfected Lu Xinyuan couldn't help but look back at Lu Ping. Lu Ping naturally knew what perfected Lu Xinyuan meant, so he smiled and said, "This time, I'm the only late-stage core forging realm cultivator from Immortal Academy, but don't worry, there won't be any mistakes in opening the space channel." Lu Ping's words naturally couldn't convince everyone here. If there was a careless mistake, everyone would have to wait for another 300 years, not to mention the loss of a large number of spiritual herbs. Lu Ping revealed a faint smile. A pair of flying swords suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's surroundings. Then, under the fearful eyes of the other sect's true masters, as well as the fanatical eyes of Immortal Academy's disciples, Autumn Water's faintly sword pointed one towards the southeast, one towards the southwest, the two separately flying out 3 to 5 li. Then, under the shocked eyes of Taoist Master Ji who knew how many times, he casually displayed several sets of ordinary sword techniques. Taoist Master Jianming finally guessed why Lu Ping suddenly appeared behind them. This Taoist Master Xian Ping must have investigated the collapsed space in advance, but what made Taoist Master Jianming feel strange was that besides alchemy, this Taoist Master Xian Ping was also interested in space arrays and other miscellaneous knowledge. The distance between the 2 flying swords was exactly the distance between the 6 bases of the space arrays to open the space. Compared to Taoist Master Jian Ming, who was quite knowledgeable in space arrays, Taoist Master Gu Hun and Pang Feiyun paid attention to Lu Ping's powerful divine sense. The strength of a cultivator's attack depended on the cultivator's cultivation and true essence, and the range of the attack was limited by the range of the cultivator's divine sense. The fact that Lu Ping could display the two flying swords from such a distance proved that Lu Ping's divine sense cultivation far surpassed everyone else's. Taoist Master Jian Ming laughed dryly and said, "In that case, let's begin." "There's no hurry." Lu Ping waved his hand and said, "Although junior brother Xian Fang has already instructed the sect's disciples, I came late because of some matters. There are still some matters that I need to take note of, so please wait a moment." Taoist Master Jian Ming frowned and was about to refute. "You came late because of yourself. You can't let everyone wait for your Yingshan Immortal Academy." However, before he could say anything, he heard Taoist Master Gu Hun suddenly say with a smile, "Taoist Master Xian Ping, please do as you please. Anyway, the space will be open for a month, so it won't make much of a difference." Taoist Master Jian Ming bitterly shut his mouth and did not say anything. Lu Ping glanced at Taoist Master Jian Ming and smiled faintly. Then he stretched out his hand and waved. After Lu Ping's arm waved, a multicolored light enveloped him and the group of Immortal Academy disciples, leaving only Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan and Taoist Master Xian Fang outside, exchanging pleasantries with the other two sects' cultivators. When Immortal Academy's disciples heard that Elder Xian Ping was actually going to personally instruct them on something, their faces immediately revealed excited expressions. What kind of person was Elder Xian Ping? He was publicly acknowledged as number one under Heavenly Mountain's old ancestor. It was to the extent where not a single disciple from Immortal Academy had ever seen Elder Xian Ping before. Outside the multicolored cloud, Pang Feiyun looked at the undulating cloud, and his eyes constantly flickered with an indescribable brilliance. Suddenly, Pang Feiyun seemed to have made up his mind about something. A ray of light flickered in his sleeve, but it was hidden by his sleeve. Lu Ping, who was hidden by the multicolored cloud, was about to give some instructions to the Immortal Academy disciples, but he suddenly frowned and sneered. It seems that the lesson was not enough. Pang Feiyun had been indifferent and silent since he arrived here, so his actions just now were not noticed by the people present. However, Pang Feiyun seemed to have noticed that his secret technique had worked, so he turned his body slightly, as if he wanted to put one ear in the direction of the multicolored cloud, so that he could detect something through the secret technique. However, at this moment, the originally calm multicolored cloud suddenly fluctuated violently like a huge wave. Everyone, including Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan and Taoist Master Xian Fang, looked at the multicolored cloud behind them in surprise, but they heard Pang Feiyun let out a painful groan. When everyone looked at Pang Feiyun, they saw that his face was deathly pale, and there was a faint trace of blood seeping out of his left ear. Everyone immediately understood what was going on. Taoist Master Fei Hong sighed and took out a colorful bottle from the storage magic tool on his wrist. He poured out a crystal-clear pill from inside and handed it to Pang Feiyun to swallow. Taoist Master Xian Fang looked at the pill that Taoist Master Fei Hong took out and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He had obviously recognized the name of the pill, and this pill was obviously a quite famous and precious item. Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan gave Pang Feiyun a meaningful look, but he didn't say anything. Taoist Master Fei Hong smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Only Pang Feiyun closed his eyes to refine the medicinal power after swallowing the pill. Lu Ping glanced coldly outside the cloud light 5 elements robe, then turned around to look at the Immortal Academy's disciples with reverence on their faces. He smiled and said, "You are all the elites of the Immortal Academy in the past 10 years. This time, entering the Fist Valley is undoubtedly an opportunity. If you can gain something from the space, the sect will naturally not be stingy with your rewards. The door to the mid-stage blood condensation realm will no longer be a problem for you. Once you cross the threshold of the mid-stage blood condensation realm, it means that you have the qualifications to become a disciple of the Immortal Academy's core forging masters. This means that you will receive more cultivation resources, more pointers, more profound cultivation techniques, and more powerful spells. In the future, You will also be able to go further in the cultivation world. This was not Lu Ping boasting. With his current status, if he took care of these disciples a little, not to mention advancing to the mid-stage blood condensation realm, even the late-stage blood condensation realm would not be a problem. Many of the disciples were excited by Lu Ping's promises and words. They couldn't wait to enter the Fist Valley right now. Lu Ping glanced at the few disciples who were still calm, including Du Jialua and Tianyu, who had his cultivation sealed. He said calmly, "You don't have to be too happy. There are also great risks in the space. Remember, the most dangerous thing in the space is not the various dangers and the demonic beasts inside, but the cultivators from the various sects who entered with you." Looking at the solemn and thoughtful disciples in front of him, Lu Ping knew that they were naturally smart people who could stand out among hundreds of disciples in the past 10 years. They could naturally understand what he meant. Lu Ping waved his hand, and 18 jade slips appeared between the 18 disciples. Lu Ping gestured for everyone to pick up a jade slip, then he said, "These 18 jade slips record the map of the Fist Valley. Some areas with a higher concentration of spirit herbs are marked in the jade slips. There are also dozens of images of spirit herbs recorded at the bottom of the jade slips. Remember them all. Although these spirit herbs are 500-year and 1,000-year spirit herbs, they are extremely rare and precious compared to other spirit herbs. When you are harvesting spirit herbs in the space, you must prioritize harvesting these things." After everyone memorized the map and pictures of spiritual herbs in the jade slips, Tianyu was the first to crush the jade slip in his hand. The other disciples were surprised at first, but they immediately understood what Lu Ping meant and crushed the jade slips in their hands. Lu Ping nodded in satisfaction. He then flipped his palm, and another 18 talismans appeared in his hand. He said, "These 18 talismans have two effects. One is that after you enter the space, as long as you are not more than 5 miles away from each other, the talismans will sense each other. It will make it easier for you to gather together and work together." The 18 disciples were overjoyed. They picked up the talismans that landed in front of them and hid them close to their bodies. However, Lu Ping continued, "The second effect of these talismans is protection. I believe they can withstand a blow from a third-layer blood condensation cultivator without shattering. Originally, I would have given you guys better talismans. However, this space is very strange. Once the aura of a cultivator above the third layer of the blood condensation realm leaks out, the space around that cultivator will shatter. I don't need to say more about the result." After Lu Ping finished speaking, all the disciples trembled. Lu Ping's gaze turned to Tianyu. Tianyu had sealed his cultivation, but Lu Ping knew that Tianyu wasn't good at fighting. If he broke through the seal in a dangerous situation, only death would await Tianyu. Since Lu Ping already had the intention to accept disciples, he naturally wouldn't allow any accidents to happen to them. However, the rare look of determination on Tianyu's face surprised Lu Ping. According to Lu Ping's knowledge, although Tianyu was quite talented in the field of pill refinement, he was a relatively timid person. Originally, Lu Ping thought that the Immortal Academy sent him because they couldn't gather 18 blood condensation disciples. Now, it seemed like Tianyu took the initiative to send him. Chapter 709. Lu Ping knew that Yingshan Immortal Academy's foundation was shallow. The cultivation of the 18 disciples was uneven and they didn't have much experience. If they entered the space now, it would be easy for others to take advantage of them. Thus, he had no choice but to rack his brains and leave behind more methods to prevent his own disciples from suffering heavy losses. In fact, Lu Ping also knew that this was the reason why Tianshan Laozu wanted him to come here. Lu Ping didn't care about the Academy's matters for the past 10 years. Tianshan Laozu wanted him to worry about the Academy. At the same time, he wanted to establish his prestige among the many disciples of Yingshan Immortal Academy. After receiving the spiritual talisman, the disciples saw that Lu Ping didn't remove the rainbow mist around them. They were overjoyed. Could it be that this elder Xian Ping was going to give them more treasures? Looking at the excited disciples around him, Tianyu couldn't help but twitch his mouth. This was nothing. It couldn't even be compared to a single hair in Taoist Xianping's 9 oxen. If they knew that this person in front of them was known as the boy of many treasures, who knew how shocked they would be? As expected, Lu Ping still had more methods to give out. He took out a spirit beast bag and formed a few hand seals towards the sealed spirit beast bag. The originally sealed spirit beast bag was immediately opened. A buzzing sound rang out, and under the expectant gazes of Tianyu and Tianyu's astonished gazes, 18 fist-sized demonic wasps flew out from the spirit beast pouch. Their transparent wings flapped rapidly, and they gave off an aura that struck fear into the hearts of all the disciples. These 18 demonic bees were all at the 3rd layer of the core forging realm. Under Lu Ping's command, the 18 demonic bees landed on the shoulders of the disciples under the fearful gazes of the disciples. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't reveal the name of the amethyst wasps. He only said, "These are demon soldiers that I've specially trained." Each of these 18 wasps has a cultivation of the 3rd layer of the blood condensation realm. Although the true cultivation of a demon soldier is far weaker than human or demonic beast cultivators of the same cultivation realm, they will still be of great help to you. Furthermore, these wasps have a special ability to sense spiritual herbs and flowers. When the time comes, you will have a map to refer to and the wasps to guide you. I believe that your harvest will not be inferior to the other 2 sects. Demon soldiers. The disciples carefully looked at the amethyst wasps on their shoulders, and their hearts surged with joy. Previously, when the Immortal Academy disciples saw that the other 2 sects were all at the 3rd layer of the blood condensation realm, they were still a little apprehensive. But now, when they saw the 3rd layer demonic bees on their shoulders, their previous apprehension was swept away. Because Wasp Queen Zilan had advanced to the core forging realm, the quality of the amethyst wasps in Lu Ping's hands had also greatly improved. More than 1/3 of the thousands of amethyst wasps had advanced to the blood condensation realm. Although 3 of these amethyst wasps might not be as strong as a human or demonic beast cultivator of the same cultivation realm, it was already a great help to the Immortal Academy disciples. It was even more beneficial than giving them a high-grade magic tool. Actually, Lu Ping wanted to give them more, so that every cultivator could control a batch of amethyst wasps. However, these wasps were Zilan's subordinates, and Zilan had recognized Lu Ping as her master. Even if Lu Ping wanted to give them the amethyst wasps, these disciples would not be able to control them with their spiritual will. It was better to give each of them 1 amethyst wasps. This way, under Zilan's orders, these disciples would be able to control the amethyst wasps with their own spiritual will. What's more, once the amethyst wasps were given to a disciple, if that disciple died and the amethyst wasps were obtained by others, the news of Yingshan Immortal Academy possessing the amethyst wasps would be exposed. Then, the newly established Immortal Academy would immediately be suppressed by the various powers, and the Immortal Academy might even vanish into thin air. Moreover, the amethyst wasps could not be separated from the queen bee for too long. If they were separated for too long, the amethyst wasps would either dissipate on their own, or a new queen bee would be born. No matter which scenario it was, Lu Ping was not willing to see it happen. However, if a cultivator only had 1 amethyst wasp, then there was no need to worry. Putting aside the fact that the amethyst wasps had disappeared from the cultivation world for so many years, it was doubtful that anyone would recognize them. Moreover, Lu Ping had also placed a restriction on these 18 amethyst wasps through Zilan. Once the aura of the cultivator they followed dissipated, they would also die. Lu Ping glanced at Du Jialua, and a trace of hesitation could be seen in his eyes. Following which, he seemed to have made up his mind. He raised his head and said, "The other disciples can leave for now. Only a few disciples at the 3rd level of the blood condensation realm can stay. I have some instructions here." The other disciples looked at the only 4 disciples at the 3rd level of the blood condensation realm from the Immortal Academy with looks of envy. Elder Xian Ping naturally had instructions for the few disciples with the highest cultivation to stay behind. Perhaps, these people might even receive some benefits from Elder Xian Ping. However, they couldn't blame others for this. Who asked them to be weaker than Elder Xian Ping? Lu Ping saw 3 of the disciples looking smug. They all looked at Lu Ping with bright eyes, as if waiting for him to give them other instructions. Lu Ping smiled, then turned to Tian Yu and asked, "Have you thought it through? You are not good at fighting. Now that your cultivation has been sealed, if you break the seal and use magic power beyond the 3rd level of the blood condensation realm, you will die for sure." Tian Yu hesitated for a moment when he heard Lu Ping's words, but his eyes regained clarity in an instant. He nodded at Lu Ping and said, "Don't worry, Uncle Master. Since disciple has already made up his mind, then life and death are up to fate." Lu Ping smiled and didn't say anything else. However, there was a trace of admiration in his eyes for Tian Yu. Lu Ping looked at the 4 people in front of him and took out 4 more jade slips from his storage magic tool. He said, "The map I gave you earlier is actually not complete. There are 4 other maps in these 4 jade slips. They might record areas that the cultivators who entered before the space opened. There might be a large number of higher quality spiritual herbs in these areas." Tian Yu's eyes lit up. He was a true alchemist. Although Lu Ping's words were vague, for a grandmaster like Lu Ping to say higher quality spiritual herbs, it meant that the spiritual herbs growing in these unknown areas were only 3,000 years old. Once you encounter these spiritual herbs, you don't have to hesitate. Just collect them as much as you want. However, there are more than 20 spiritual herbs that you have to pay special attention to. If you encounter these spiritual herbs, you have to collect them carefully and store them in a special spirit sealing jade box. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't just tell them about the rare 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs needed to refine the spirit forging pill. Instead, he arranged them in a random order with the other rare 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. This way, even if someone saw these spiritual herbs, they wouldn't be able to associate them with the spirit forging pill. Lu Ping handed a few spirit sealing boxes made of jade crystals to the disciples and took out 4 small spirit beast pouches. The 4 of them didn't feel numb when they saw Lu Ping's endless methods. Instead, they were pleasantly surprised. Being able to see Elder Xianping today was enough for them to hold their heads high in front of everyone even if they didn't go to the Fist Valley. Lu Ping handed the 4 spirit beast bags to the 4 of them and passed a set of techniques to them. Then, he said, each of these 4 storage bags contains 50 demonic bees at the late stage of the blood refining realm. After you use the techniques I just passed to you, you can use these demonic bees to form the demon soldier formation. With this demon soldier formation, you will at least have the strength of a blood condensation realm cultivator. Lu Ping looked at the 4 of them and said, "However, I don't want you to use this demon soldier formation to fight with others. I've already set up some things in the spirit beast bags. Whenever you find a patch of spiritual grass, you must first release these demonic bees to collect nectar. At the same time, these demonic bees can also help you patrol and warn you. After that, you can start collecting the spiritual grass. Do you understand?" Seeing the 4 of them nodding, Lu Ping said, "If the 4 of you return, I will reward each of you with half a caddy of nectar brewed by the demonic bees. At the same time, prepare to go into seclusion and break through to the late stage of the blood condensation realm." Lu Ping's words stunned the 4 of them at first. Then they became overjoyed. The meaning behind Lu Ping's words couldn't be clearer. The other 3 third-level blood condensation disciples were excited because Lu Ping was going to help them advance to the mid-stage of the blood condensation realm, but Tian Yu was excited because of the half a caddy of nectar. Tian Yu naturally knew about the demonic bees Lu Ping took out. Those were one of Taoist Master Xianping's trump cards, the amethyst bees that had been extinct in the cultivation world for a long time. Half a caddy of nectar brewed by the amethyst bees. If news of this got out, any alchemist or even grandmaster alchemist would go crazy. With half a caddy of amethyst bee nectar in hand, how many cultivation resources that could help them advance to the late stage of the blood condensation realm couldn't be bought? Not to mention, the nectar itself was an essential ingredient for many kinds of pills. After the 4 of them memorized the map Lu Ping gave them and the method to control the amethyst bees, they crushed the jade slips again. Lu Ping nodded and said solemnly, "That's all. After you enter the space, just be careful. Remember what I said today and don't leak it. Otherwise, it will bring trouble to the Immortal Academy, and even your lives will be in danger. Lu Ping didn't wait for the others to reply. He stretched out his hand and grasped it. The surrounding 5-colored clouds quickly shrunk into Lu Ping's hand. A moment later, the clouds turned into a faintly discernible 5-colored robe. Lu Ping clenched his fist and the clothes disappeared from his hand. At the same time, the crowd looked around and saw the Shan Yu sect and Gu clan cultivators, as well as enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan and the others, looking at Lu Ping and the 4 third-layer blood condensation realm cultivators. Lu Ping smiled and said, "My apologies, I have something to tell the disciples. I've delayed everyone's time." Gu Hun smiled and said, "It's fine. The space will be open for a month anyway, so what's a little delay?" But seeing how Taoist Xianping gave us such detailed instructions, you seem to be very familiar with the Fist Valley space. Could it be that Taoist Xianping already has some understanding of the Fist Valley space? Lu Ping could be considered an iron-faced person in the cultivation world who wouldn't blush when he lied. He chuckled and said, "Taoist Gu must be joking. I've never heard of this Fist Valley space before, but I've intentionally collected some books about the Ying Tian sect in Hebei. Among them, there were many descriptions of the secret realms left behind by the Ying Tian sect. I believe that the layout of the Ying Tian sect in the Fist Valley space might be similar, so I gave some instructions to my disciples." Chapter 710. The moment Du Jialhua and the rest of the first and second level blood condensation realm disciples stepped out of the 5-colored cloud, they suddenly felt that the cloud they were walking in was slightly thicker than before. They couldn't even take a step out of the 5-colored cloud. At that moment, the third-level blood condensation realm wasp that had already crawled into Du Jialhua's sleeve suddenly moved. Du Jialhua was surprised. Just as he was about to lift up his sleeve to check, a fat person suddenly appeared out of thin air. Du Jialhua jumped in fright. He was about to shout when he saw the person in front of him put his index finger in front of his mouth and made a shushing gesture. Only then did Du Jialhua realize that the person in front of him was Perfected Debao. Just as Du Jialhua was about to ask in a low voice, he saw Perfected Debao's body suddenly emit a khaki-colored smoke. When the smoke dissipated, a fat mouse could be seen. It had shrunk itself into a meatball that was only half a foot long and rolled into Du Jialhua's sleeve. Although Du Jialhua was puzzled, he immediately pretended as if nothing had happened. He took another step forward and followed the other cultivators out of the range of the 5-elemental cloud robe. However, what shocked Du Jialhua was that after Perfected Debao transformed into his original form and entered his sleeve, his newly formed divine sense discovered that Perfected Debao's current cultivation was only at the 3rd level of the blood condensation realm. How was this possible? Although Du Jialhua was shocked, he didn't dare to show it on his face. It was easy to completely seal an early-stage core forging cultivator's cultivation, and it wasn't difficult to seal it to the late stage of the blood condensation realm either. However, to seal a cultivator's cultivation from the early-stage core forging realm to the early stage of the blood condensation realm, Du Jialhua didn't know how to seal a cultivator's cultivation all the way from the early-stage core forging realm to the early stage of the blood condensation realm. Although Du Jialhua had read many books in the cultivation world with Lu Ping's support, he didn't know how to seal a cultivator's cultivation all the way to the early stage of the blood condensation realm. Perhaps only a brilliant person like Elder Xianping could have such shocking methods, right? Du Jialhua quickly recollected his thoughts. At that moment, the 5 late-stage core forging realm cultivators from the 3 sects were going to work together to open up the Fist Valley. Every 300 years, the collapsed space of the Fist Valley would weaken once. At this time, 6 late-stage core forging realm cultivators would work together to open a space tunnel in 6 different directions. Amidst a series of teeth-aching noises, the originally crisscrossing spatial cracks were temporarily cleared. Lu Ping skillfully controlled the Autumn Dew sword to stab into the 2 nodes of the formation far away from each other. A steady stream of vigorous Zhen Yuan was injected into the formation, maintaining the entire spatial passage. Perfected Jian Ming turned around and said solemnly, "The tunnel has been opened. Disciples from all sects, quickly enter the space of the Fist Valley. 3 months later, we will open the tunnel again for 1 day. If you can't come out by then, the space of the tunnel will collapse again. If you want to come out, you will have to wait for 300 years. No one was amused by Perfected Jian Ming's joke. 60 early-stage blood condensation realm cultivators from all sects entered in a single file, passed through the light screen of the tunnel, and disappeared. After all the disciples entered the space, Gu Hun from the Gu family bid farewell to everyone and left first, leaving only Perfected Jian Ming and Master Gu Zhou to guard the space tunnel. The space would open in 3 months, so there was no need for everyone to stay here. After a while, Pang Feiyun also found an excuse to leave. Previously, he tried to use a rare treasure to spy on Lu Ping's instructions to the Celestial Academy disciples, but he was stopped by the spirit-nurturing treasure, the Cloud Radiance 5 Elements robe. Then, he suffered a loss from Lu Ping, and his divine sense was almost scattered by Lu Ping. Now, he was in a hurry to go back and recover from his injuries. Perfected Lu Xinyuan looked back at Lu Ping and said, "Don't tell me you're going to leave too?" Lu Ping was stunned. He did want to leave just now, but after hearing Perfected Lu Xuanyuan's words, he was too embarrassed to just leave. Perfected Lu Xinyuan chuckled and said, "Senior brother, I'm the Mountain Elder of the Celestial Academy now. I can't say that I have a myriad of affairs to attend to every day, but I'm still quite busy. In that case, I'll have to trouble junior brother Lu and junior brother Xian Fong to look after me again." Lu Ping nodded helplessly, while Perfected Xian Fong was secretly delighted. In fact, this time, Perfected Lu Xianyuan had received Perfected Xian Fong's request, hoping that he could ask Lu Ping for some advice on alchemy. Although Perfected Xian Fong was also an alchemy master, compared to an alchemy grandmaster like Lu Ping, the gap between them could not be calculated. It was extremely rare to receive guidance from an alchemy grandmaster. Perfected Xian Fong was a well-deserved alchemy genius among the third-generation disciples of Zhenling. It was only because of a monstrous genius like Lu Ping that he had been living in a state of desperation to catch up with Lu Ping, only to be left further and further behind. After coming to Yingshan Immortal Academy this time, especially when he saw Lu Ping, Perfected Xian Fong suddenly realized that although he had always regarded Lu Ping as a competitor, the latter did not seem to care about him at all. Or it could be said that he did not even have the qualifications to be his competitor. Although Perfected Xian Fong was depressed, he seemed to have put down a heavy burden in his heart. Hence, he had the intention to ask Lu Ping for advice. At this moment, Perfected Xian Fong did not have the slightest bit of jealousy or other thoughts. He only had the pursuit and passion for alchemy. At this time, Perfected Xian Fong realized that perhaps he had subconsciously given up the idea of competing with Lu Ping, just like how he took care of Tianyu in the Pill Pavilion. Although it was because of Tianyu's own alchemy talent, Perfected Xian Fong seemed to intentionally or unintentionally want to reveal the intention of reconciliation to Lu Ping through Tianyu. It was just that he was also a genius of Zhenling after all. He had his own pride. Even though he knew that it would be difficult for him to reach the height of Lu Ping in this life, it was difficult for him to give up the competitive spirit in his heart. Over time, it became a demon that restricted the improvement of his alchemy skills. In fact, as one of the top alchemy masters of Zhenling, as long as Perfected Xian Fong was willing, whether it was Tianlu Laozu or Tianqin Laozu, these two alchemy grandmasters would naturally give him pointers on alchemy. In fact, it was precisely because Perfected Xian Fong's alchemy skills had reached a bottleneck that when he asked Tianlu Laozu for advice on how to break through, Tianlu Laozu was silent for a long time and told him to go back first before telling him the method. Unexpectedly, a few days later, the sect sent him news that they wanted to transfer him to the Central Plains. Although Perfected Xian Fong did not understand, he did not disobey the sect's order. It was just that at that time, Immortal Academy had just been built and there were many things waiting to be done. Tianshan Laozu's requirements for alchemy masters were very urgent, but it just so happened that the alchemy grandmaster Lu Ping was in seclusion. Therefore, Perfected Xian Fong did not have time to ask Tianlu Laozu for the method to break through the bottleneck before he came to the Central Plains. During the several years he spent in Yingshan Immortal Academy, although Perfected Xian Fong's alchemy skills did not improve, The success rate of alchemy that he had mastered had increased a lot. Moreover, his cultivation had also broken through to the middle stage of core forging. After Lu Ping came out of seclusion, when perfected Xian Fang saw Lu Ping in front of the main hall of Immortal Academy, he finally understood the purpose of the sect transferring him to the Central Plains. It was to let him face Lu Ping and completely abandon the last trace of his demon. After understanding the cause and effect, perfected Xian Fang completely let go of his previous obsession and hoped to communicate with Lu Ping. Therefore, he wanted to talk to Lu Ping alone through perfected Lu Xianyuan in the name of asking for advice on alchemy. Perfected Lu Xianyuan knew about the conflict between Lu Ping and perfected Xian Fang. Although perfected Lu Xianyuan found this kind of trivial matter funny, perfected Xian Fang was after all the alchemy grandmaster of the sect. In terms of status and identity, perfected Lu Xianyuan was even more happy to see him take the initiative to reconcile with Lu Ping, so he agreed. Therefore, the always honest perfected Lu Xianyuan actually played a scoundrel with Lu Ping. However, it seemed like the heavens also found perfected Xian Fang interesting and wanted to play a joke on him. Just when Lu Ping agreed to stay behind with perfected Lu Xianyuan, Lu Ping looked up at the sky upstream of Ying River in surprise. When perfected Lu Xianyuan saw Lu Ping like this, he also looked up and saw a ray of light approaching from afar. When it got close, perfected Lu Xianyuan said in surprise, "It's perfected Li Nan. How did he get here?" Lu Ping recognized this perfected Li Nan. He was the guest cultivator at the 6th layer of core forging who did his best to protect a few Immortal Academy disciples from being killed by junior martial brother Wang. This guest cultivator could be considered as one of the first batch of cultivators to join Immortal Academy. In these years, he could be considered capable and experienced. In fact, Guotianshan, Laozu, and perfected Lu Xianyuan had long understood perfected Li Nan's purpose. His cultivation had been stuck at the peak of the 6th layer of core forging for many years. However, due to his status as a rogue cultivator and the flaws in his cultivation method, he was unable to break through to the late stage of core forging. The reason he joined Immortal Academy was to perfect his cultivation heritage and break through to the late stage of core forging. However, at that time, Immortal Academy had just been established and people's hearts were hard to predict. Guotianshan, Laozu, and the others naturally had to be on guard. How could they easily leak their family's heritage? However, in these 10 years, perfected Li Nan's reputation in Immortal Academy was quite good. Especially after the battle between perfected Xianping and the Gu clan, perfected Li Nan finally received the recognition of many cultivators in Immortal Academy. When perfected Li Nan descended, perfected Lu Xianyuan asked doubtfully, "Brother Li, how did you get here?" In Immortal Academy, only perfected masters of core forging who came from the North Sea under Tianshan Laozu knew about the Fist Valley space. The other core forging juniors would not tell perfected Li Nan about it. Therefore, there was only one possibility for perfected Li Nan to come here. Perfected Li Nan let out a breath and said, "Tianshan Laozu just sent a message saying that a guest from afar has arrived. He wants the two of you to return to Immortal Academy as soon as possible after the matter in the Fist Valley space is settled." Lu Ping and perfected Lu Xianyuan looked at each other in surprise. Guest from afar was a term used by Immortal Academy to refer to cultivators from their own sects in the North Sea. Guotianshan Laozu actually asked perfected Li Nan to send such a message. It could be seen that perfected Li Nan had passed Guotianshan Laozu's test. Lu Ping and perfected Lu Xianyuan smiled and cupped their hands at perfected Li Nan. They said, "Congratulations, Brother Li." Perfected Li Nan was stunned at first, but his face immediately revealed an ecstatic expression. He stammered, "You too, this?" Perfected Lu Xianyuan patted perfected Li Nan's shoulder and said, "I'll have to trouble Brother Li and Junior Brother Xianfang to look after this place for the time being. Junior Brother Xianping and I will return to the sect first." Chapter 711. Enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan was a little surprised, but Lu Ping looked at the woman in front of him in shock. Enlightened Master Xian Kai looked at Lu Ping's expression and found it funny. She said, "Junior Marshal Brother Lu, we haven't met for a few decades. Why are you so distant?" Lu Ping blushed and smiled embarrassedly. "I didn't expect it to be Senior Marshal Sister Qi, who came from home. I haven't heard much news about Senior Marshal Sister Qi in the sect. But after seeing Senior Marshal Sister's cultivation, I finally understand." This time, Zhenling sent 5 core forging cultivators to Yingshan Immortal Academy. The one leading them was Enlightened Master Xian Kai, who was in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping recognized this Enlightened Master Xian Kai and had a deep impression of her. She was Qi Zicai, one of the 18 generals of the North Siege before Enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan advanced to core forging. In fact, Lu Ping wasn't completely clueless about Qi Zicai's situation. She was a famous cultivator in the past, so Lu Ping had naturally asked about her recent situation. Back then, he heard that Qi Zicai had encountered a huge bottleneck in her breakthrough to the core forging realm. Even after Enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan and the others advanced to the core forging realm, she was still stuck at the peak of the blood condensation realm. Later on, he heard that she basically had no hope of advancing to core forging. Lu Ping felt that it was a pity for a period of time. Although Qi Zicai was a woman, she was very capable and experienced. She left a deep impression on Lu Ping. After Lu Ping spent most of his time traveling, he didn't hear any news about her. Today, he saw Qi Zicai again. Not only had she broken through to the core forging realm, she seemed to be the same as Lu Xianyuan. She was also a cultivator who had accumulated a lot of experience. In less than 100 years, she had risen from the late blood condensation realm to the 6th layer core forging realm. However, Lu Ping could feel from her aura that Enlightened Master Xian Kai's cultivation seemed to have just advanced and stabilized after a period of seclusion. Speaking of Zhenling sect's 3rd-generation disciples, they could be roughly divided into 3 different age groups. The first stage consisted of Taoist Master Xian Tian, Taoist Master Xian Hui, Taoist Master Xian Ru, Taoist Master Xian Hui, and other disciples of the 2nd generation of Zhenling. These disciples had already reached the 5th or 6th layer of core forging. As for the more outstanding disciples like Xian Tian Jinren, they had already stepped into the late core forging stage and had begun to peak at the transcendent stage, preparing to advance to the transcendent stage. The second group consisted of disciples like Lu Xianyuan, Qi Xian Kai, Taoist Master Xian Shang, and Taoist Master Xian Lei. They had joined the 2nd generation of Zhenling's disciples relatively late and had only cultivated for a short period of time. However, the more accomplished disciples had already advanced to the mid-core forging stage. The more outstanding disciples like Lu Xianyuan, Qi Xian Kai, and Taoist Master Xian Shang had already advanced to the 6th layer of core forging and were beginning to work towards the late core forging stage. The third group was the disciples represented by Lu Ping, Ji Xianxian, Yao Xianyong, Du Xianfeng, Chen Xuanlian, and the others. In this group of disciples, those who were successful had also advanced to the core forging realm, and the more outstanding ones were also in the mid-core forging realm. Of course, there was also an outlier like Lu Ping in this group of disciples. However, when the 3rd generation of Zhenling's disciples discussed each other's cultivation realms, they often automatically ignored this person. This was not a person who could be judged by common sense, but rather a monster. There were also 2 late core forging stage cultivators who came with Taoist Master Xian Kai, and they were both acquaintances of Lu Ping. One was Liang Tianfeng Laozu's disciple, Taoist Master Zhang Xianbei, who had just advanced to the transcendent stage. The other was Taoist Master Xianyu, who was rather taciturn back in the East Sea. These 2 Taoists were above Taoist Master Xian Kai in terms of cultivation and experience. However, this time, Zhenling had actually sent Taoist Master Xian Kai to replace Taoist Master Lu Xianyuan as the Mountain Elder. Thus, Taoist Master Xian Kai became the leader of the group of 5. The arrival of Taoist Master Xianbei and Taoist Master Xianyu was to increase the number of late core forging stage cultivators in Immortal Academy. This was also what Tianshan Laozu had strongly requested of the sect after the battle between Lu Ping and the 3 heroes of the Gu clan. At the same time, there were also 2 mid-core forging stage cultivators. One was also an acquaintance of Lu Ping. It was Chen Lian's junior, Taoist master Xian Tao. Lu Ping had a good impression of him. Back then, when Taoist master Lu Hai led the demon clan to besiege Huangli Island, this Taoist master Xian Tao happened to be present. At that time, he also played a great role in the battle. Later, when Yin Xuanchu's identity as a mixed human and demon was exposed, he also helped Yin Xianchu escape with Lu Ping and the others without hesitation. Of course, the reason why Taoist Master Xian Tao could come to Immortal Academy was also the result of Tianshan Laozu's strong request. The reason was very simple. Currently, Immortal Academy did not have a decent tool refiner, and this Taoist Master Xian Tao was one of the only two tool refiners in Jinling's third-generation disciples, second only to Chen Lian. The remaining Taoist Master Xian Teng was someone Lu Ping did not know. After meeting her, Lu Ping found out that this Taoist Master Xian Teng was actually a talisman master of the Talisman Pavilion. However, she was not under Taoist Master Xian Ju, but the disciple of another talisman master. With the addition of these 5 people, Yinshan Immortal Academy's strength would undoubtedly rise to a higher level. Not to mention the addition of a tool refiner and a talisman master, the addition of Taoist Master Xian Bei and Taoist Master Xian Yu, these 2 late-stage core forging cultivators would also greatly increase the strength of the Immortal Academy's core forging cultivators. At the very least, after the incident with the Gu clan's 3 heroes, the experts of Immortal Academy would not be stretched too thin. It must be known that when Taoist Master Xian Bei advanced to the late stage of core forging, he used a high-grade earth-ranked spirit object, and Taoist Master Xian Yu also smelted a mid-grade earth-ranked dual-attribute spirit object. Although the quality of the smelted spirit object was only one aspect of a cultivator's strength, at the very least, Taoist Master Xian Bei and Taoist Master Xian Yu were not weaklings among cultivators of the same level. After the 5 people came to Immortal Academy, they quickly joined and established their reputation among the many disciples, establishing their own positions, especially Taoist Master Xian Kai. Because she wanted to take over Taoist Master Lu Xuanyuan's position as Mountain Elder, she had to follow Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan and familiarize herself with everything in Immortal Academy. After a year, Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan would return to the North Sea and prepare to advance to the late stage of core forging. After the 5 newcomers were led by Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan to familiarize themselves with the situation in Immortal Academy, Lu Ping turned to Tianshan Laozu and said with a smile, "Martial uncle, it seems that the momentum of the sect's development these years is still good. Otherwise, according to the information that senior brother Xiantian brought back about the North Sea's cultivation world, although our sect still has the advantage in the North Sea, it would not be easy to easily transfer 2 late-stage core forging cultivators, a master refiner, and a talisman master." Tianshan Laozu smiled and said, "The harvest from In Tian Dojo has deepened the foundation of the sects in the North Sea. Although the sects in the North Sea have developed with the treasures obtained from In Tian Dojo, our sect has gained the most, so our development is naturally faster. However, the most important reason why the sect is so generous this time is because of the East Sea." "East Sea?" Lu Ping's eyes lit up and said, "Did something go wrong in the Crystal Palace?" Tianshan Laozu nodded, but he did not look relaxed. Instead, he looked a little solemn. He said, "Senior brother Tiankong sent news from Jingzha Island that the conflict between the Carefree sect and the Crystal Palace is getting more and more intense. As for the other 4 large sects in the East Sea, except for Skyrend who is confronting the Kuan Fish clan and has no time to deal with other things, the other 3 sects are more or less secretly helping the Carefree sect." Lu Ping nodded and said in a serious voice, "That's how it should be. After all, the Crystal Palace has been the overlord of the East Sea for too long. Now that someone is taking the lead to fight against the Crystal Palace, it's natural for the other 3 sects to secretly help the Carefree sect." Tianshan agreed with Lu Ping's words and continued, "If it was only this matter, it would not have caused the Crystal Palace to be so badly battered. More importantly, the Crystal Palace's operation to invade the Middle Earth this time has failed again. The Heavenly Moon sect, together with a few sects in the east coast of the Middle Earth, suddenly attacked and destroyed the few strongholds that the Crystal Palace had established along the coast in one fell swoop. This drove the Crystal Palace's power from the land back to the sea. Now, the Crystal Palace's power has mostly shrunk to a few islands along the coast and barely managed to gain a foothold. Tian Shan Laozu paused for a while and continued, according to the news from Martial Uncle Tian Kong, the Avalon of 5 elements, one of the 5 holy lands of the Middle Earth, seems to be behind this sudden attack by the Heavenly Moon sect. Although Lu Ping was quite shocked when he heard this news, he felt that it was inevitable. If it was just the Heavenly Moon sect alone, even though it was also a large sect, how could it resist the Crystal Palace for so many years, causing the Crystal Palace to be unable to gain a foothold in the Middle Earth? However, now that he heard that the game between the Avalon of 5 elements and the Crystal Palace was actually turning from the dark to the light, if this news were to spread, the entire cultivation world would probably immediately welcome a shock. There was a faint anticipation in Lu Ping's heart. If these 2 large sects were to clash head-on, what kind of shocking scene would that be? Seeing that Lu Ping's expression had suddenly become excited, Guotian Shan Laozu naturally knew what Lu Ping was planning. Thus, he rudely interrupted Lu Ping's thoughts and said, "In a few days, your martial uncle Tian Feng and martial uncle Tiancheng will also arrive at the Celestial Academy. At that time, there will be a chaotic battle in Hebei. You are the #1 expert below the Dharma adepts of the Celestial Academy. At that time, there will definitely be many matters that require you to represent the Celestial Academy." After the Fist Valley space ends, you will first represent the Celestial Academy to the Spiritual Martial Sect to participate in the gathering of the Hebei cultivation world to encircle and annihilate Mara. Martial Uncle Tian Feng and Martial Uncle Tiancheng are also coming? Lu Ping's expression turned cold. His intuition told him that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Thus, he said, "Are the 2 martial uncles here in secret?" Guotian Shan Laozu looked deeply at Lu Ping and said, "The news that the 2 of them have broken through to the Dharma stage has not yet been leaked." Guotian Shan Laozu thought for a while and seemed to want to explain the matter more thoroughly. Thus, he continued, "After the destruction of the Ying Tian sect, the Spiritual Martial Sect is the most powerful sect in Hebei. This sect already has the strength of a large sect. All they need is the recognition of the 5 great holy lands to officially enter the threshold of a large sect." Lu Ping took a deep breath and said, "I know what to do." Chapter 712. 4,000 years ago, the Azure Sea sect suddenly split into 2 sects, the Azure Sea sect and the Azure Wave sect. The previous huge sect suddenly collapsed, which greatly shocked the cultivation world of the North Sea. From then on, Zhenling passed down a rule. Apart from Zhenling's sect's encampment and dojo, any other Zhenling cultivators who opened up cave abodes, dojo, or side courtyards in other regions would have to rotate after 10 years. The purpose of this rule was to prevent the high-ranking cultivators from the sect from having the idea of breaking out after establishing their own sects for too long. Back then, Tian Shui Laozu guarded Huanyu Island. Later, it was Tian Kong Laozu, and now it was Jiang Tianlin Laozu. After Lu Ping opened up Huangli Island, Jiang Tianlin Laozu was the first to guard it, which was later replaced by Tian Qin Laozu. As for the Jingzha Island in the East Sea, after Tian Xiang Laozu became a grand cultivator and returned to Tianling Mountain to guard it, it was left empty for a period of time. After Jiang Tianlin Laozu returned to the North Sea from Ying Mountain Range to replace Tian Kong Laozu in guarding Huanyu Island, Tian Kong Laozu went to the East Sea to guard Jingzha Island. After Lu Ping opened up Huangli Island, although he was not considered a true high-ranking cultivator at that time, he now had the right. Luckily, Lu Ping had always been a hands-off manager, handing Huangli Island to Hu Lili to manage. In addition, Jiang Tianlin Laozu and Tian Qin Laozu guarded the island. Lu Tianling Laozu's authority as the sect leader was growing day by day. Therefore, although there had always been people in the sect who were jealous of the large cultivation resources on Huangli Island, they had always tried to get their hands on the benefits of Huangli Island under the name of Zhenling's tradition of rotating guards. They had never succeeded. Yingshan Immortal Academy was naturally no exception. Logically speaking, this time Guotianshan Laozu also needed to be rotated. However, this place was after all far away from the North Sea, and it was still in its early stages. In addition, they needed to hide the fact that Celestial Academy was Zhenling's backing. Dharma adepts were such a huge target. Once people found out that Celestial Academy's Dharma adept had suddenly been replaced by someone else, it would naturally raise the suspicions of other powers. Therefore, Guotianshan Laozu's position could not be changed, but Spiritual Master Lu Xuanyuan's position as Mountain Elder had to be changed. Just Guotianshan Laozu's identity as a direct disciple meant that even if Spiritual Master Lu Xuanyuan did not take up the position of Mountain Elder, he could not stay in Celestial Academy for long. Even though the change of Celestial Academy's Mountain Elder would also attract the attention of other powers, compared to replacing Tianshan Laozu, this target was much smaller. Moreover, Spiritual Master Lu Xuanyuan was not too far away from the peak of the 6th level of core forging. He could completely use the excuse of breaking through to the late stage of core forging to resign from his position as Mountain Elder. This time, Tianfeng Laozu and Tiancheng Laozu had secretly sneaked into Central Plains. Although Lu Ping had already guessed some things from Tianshan Laozu's words, in reality, the other meaning of the two Laozu's arrival was also to supplement the Zhenling's rotating inheritance. Since it could not be rotated, then it was simply a situation of mutual restraint. Even though everyone was well aware of this was, after all, the tradition of Zhenling, and no one could say anything about it. Several days later, in the cave under the cliff at the back of the Immortal Academy, the ultra-long-distance teleportation array lit up once again. Lu Ping accompanied Tianshan Laozu outside the stone room to welcome the arrival of the two Laozu. After the destruction of the Ying Tian sect, no more large sects appeared in the northern part of the Yulon River. Without the suppression of the Ying Tian sect, many of the medium-sized sects in this region began to develop with all their might, intending to raise their own sects into large powers, obtain the recognition of the 5 great cultivation holy lands of the Central Plains, and rule over a region of the Central Plains. However, in the past 4,000 years, the various powers in the Hebei cultivation world had fought over each other. Every time a sect rose to prominence, they would be suppressed by the other sects, forming a situation of mutual restraint. In the end, no sect was able to successfully develop into a large power. This time, it was the Spirit Martial sect's turn to have a chance. The Spirit Martial sect had been hiding their strength and biding their time for hundreds of years. They had always kept a low profile in the Hebei cultivation world and secretly accumulated their strength. After nearly 1,000 years of hard work, the Spirit Martial sect finally possessed the strength of a large sect. Even so, the Laozu of the Spirit Martial sect still decided to keep a low profile. Although the Spirit Martial sect already possessed the strength of a large power, once the various medium-sized powers of the Hebei cultivation world joined forces, the Spirit Martial sect would still be suppressed. Therefore, the Laozu of the Spirit Martial sect decided to continue to endure. They would either wait for the sect's strength to grow to the point where the other sects were unable to stop them, or wait for a suitable opportunity to quickly obtain the recognition of the 5 great holy lands and never establish their position as a large sect. And it just so happened that at this time, the Hebei cultivation world had become the first stop for the Azura and the demonic cultivators to wreak havoc, opening the prelude to the great calamity of the cultivation world. For the Spirit Martial sect, this was an opportunity that they had no choice but to fight for, no matter good or bad. The entire Hebei cultivation world had been harassed by Mara. All the sects had suffered heavy losses from Mara's attacks, and the Spirit Martial sect was no exception. However, when the Spirit Martial sect faced the attack of Mara's army, in order to reduce the sect's losses, they had no choice but to display their full strength in front of the Hebei cultivation world. 2 grand adepts, 3 mid-Dharma adepts, and 6 early Dharma adepts. The 11 Dharma adepts of Laozu had shaken the entire cultivation world. The Spirit Martial sect had hidden themselves so deeply. With the sect's protective array and the powerful strength of the 11 Dharma Laozu, Although the spirit martial sect had suffered a large group of asuras and demonic cultivators, their losses were the least in the entire Hebei cultivation world. Among the 11 Dharma adepts, Laozu had not fallen. On the other hand, almost all of the other mid-sized forces had Dharma adepts who had been injured or killed by Mara's rampage. Among them, the Gu family was one of the ones who had suffered the most. The Gu family originally had 3 mid-Dharma Laozu and 5 early Dharma adepts. They were considered above average among the mid-sized forces in the Hebei cultivation world. However, during Mara's attack, 1 early Dharma adept had fallen, and another early Dharma adept had been seriously injured, almost losing any chance of improving his cultivation. Another mid-Dharma adept had suffered light injuries and would need a few years or even longer to recuperate. This kind of loss was considered a serious blow to the Gu family. Fortunately, the Gu family had managed to win over Changhe Laozu, who had been destroyed, and the remaining Inghe sect adepts to join them. This could be considered to have slightly recovered. However, compared to the spirit martial sect, this little bit of strength was simply incomparable. For a time, the entire Hebei cultivation world was surging. Since the spirit martial sect had already revealed their strength, they decided not to hide it anymore. They actively began to send cultivators to the 5 Holy Lands, seeking the status of a large sect. As for the other sects and forces, while they were licking the wounds caused by Mara's rampage, they were also secretly forming alliances, preparing to snipe the rise of the spirit martial sect. For a time, the entire North Sea cultivation world was strangely quiet. However, the high-level cultivators of the various sects knew that this was just the last calm before the storm. Tianshan Laozu explained the situation of the entire Hebei cultivation world to Tianfeng Laozu and Tiancheng Laozu in the rocky cave. Lu Ping sat at the side and listened. After Liang Tianfeng Laozu finished listening, he nodded and said, "The Immortal Academy is of great importance to our sect. Sooner or later, our sect will be exposed to the cultivation world of the Middle Earth and clash with the local forces. Instead of facing the suppression of the entire Hebei cultivation world led by the spirit martial sect, it would be better to participate in the game of all parties and help the Gu family and other forces to join forces to suppress the spirit martial sect, maintaining the situation of the entire Hebei cultivation world fighting separately and restraining each other." Chu Tiancheng Laozu also agreed, "That's right. In this way, with the support of our sect, the Immortal Academy can steadily rise and completely stabilize its foundation in the Hebei cultivation world. When the time comes, our sect will enter the Middle Earth cultivation world in one go. At that time, even if the Hebei cultivation world wants to stop us, it will be too late." Old ancestor Guatianshan nodded his head and said, "Previously, when the Gu family probed us, although we could be considered to have submitted, it also showed that the situation of the Gu family and the other medium-sized forces who wanted to fight against the spirit martial force was not very good. Even the Yingshan Immortal Academy and the Mountain Universe sect, which could barely be considered small sects, had to join the alliance to fight against the spirit martial force. This meant that the spirit martial force's allies were not weaker than their enemies, and this was our chance. As long as we took this opportunity to muddy the waters even more, it would be best if both sides suffered heavy losses, and only then would we be able to fight for more space for the Immortal Academy to grow." Liang Tianfeng Laozu pondered for a moment and said, "Although this is an opportunity, there is still a risk. Right now, the Immortal Academy is trying to find a way to preserve its strength while not letting the other sects see that we have ulterior motives." Chu Tiancheng Laozu said nonchalantly, "The Immortal Academy is just an unranked force right now. Even if we have some ulterior motives, they won't pay attention to us." Guatianshan Laozu thought for a moment and said, "It's best if the Immortal Academy has a Dharma cultivator in charge, but I have to participate in this matter. Otherwise, it will definitely arouse the suspicion of the Gu family. Senior Liang, Junior Chu, who do you think will stay at home?" When Chu Tiancheng Laozu heard this, he hurriedly said, "It's not easy to come out. Who wants to stay behind?" "Senior Liang, you can just stay in the Immortal Academy." Perfected Liang Xianfeng smiled and said, "The operation this time has to be done in the light and in the dark. The one in the light is junior brother Gua, and neither of us can replace him. The one in the dark focuses on sneak attacks and hiding our identities. After junior brother Xianyin dies, who else in the sect can compare to me? This, Chu Tiancheng Laozu was dumbfounded, but he could not find a reason to refute. He could only slap his thigh and say, "What bad luck." Lu Ping looked on from the side and found it funny. Unexpectedly, Chu Tiancheng Laozu glared at him and scolded, "What are you laughing at? I heard from Senior Jiang that you have already gathered enough ingredients to make the spirit forging pill. Have you made the spirit forging pill now?" Lu Ping didn't want to bring trouble to himself, so he quickly said, "I've gathered enough spirit herbs to make 2 cauldrons of spirit forging pellets. However, the concoction process for the spirit forging pellets is no small matter, so I haven't started the process yet." Chapter 7:13. Lu Ping looked at Tiancheng Laozu and Tianfeng Laozu in confusion and asked, "Seniors, now that the recipe for the spirit forging pill has been gathered, could it be that with our sect's strength, we are still unable to gather all the herbs needed to refine the spirit forging pill? As for the 1,000 Wonder Dew, I believe that with our sect's tens of thousands of years of heritage, we should have at least a few drops." The spirit forging pill itself could only be considered a top-notch half-step Dharma elixir. Although the difficulty of refining it was no lower than that of a Dharma elixir, Zhenling now had Tianlu Laozu and Tianqin Laozu, 2 Dharma alchemists, as well as the precious cauldron that Jiang Tianlin Laozu had obtained from the Yingtian training hall. Refining such an elixir was a piece of cake. When Tiancheng Laozu and Tianfeng Laozu heard that Lu Ping could actually gather enough herbs for 2 cauldrons of the spirit forging pill, they looked at each other in surprise. Not to mention the rare 3,000-year-old herbs, to be able to gather all the herbs needed for 2 cauldrons of the spirit forging pill, didn't that mean that Lu Ping had at least 2 drops of the 1,000 Wonder Dew in his hands? Although the spirit forging pill was a half-step Dharma elixir, the few 3,000-year-old herbs used to refine it were rather precious. Zhenling had only managed to gather enough herbs for 5 cauldrons of the spirit forging pill, but Lu Ping could gather 2 cauldrons of the 1,000 Wonder Dew himself. Tianfeng Laozu suppressed the shock in his heart and handed a jade bottle to Lu Ping. "Take a look at the contents of the bottle first." Lu Ping took the jade bottle with a puzzled look. After opening the bottle, a fragrant scent instantly filled the entire stone room. Lu Ping, who had a good understanding of the spirit forging pill, naturally knew that this was the pill fragrance emitted by the spirit forging pill. It seemed that the sect had already refined the spirit forging pill, but why did Tianfeng Laozu want him to take a look first? Doubts flashed across Lu Ping's mind. Then he exclaimed in surprise. He gently flipped the jade bottle over and a purple pellet appeared in his palm. He held it in front of his eyes and carefully observed it for a moment. Then, a bluish-purple true essence emerged from his palm and wrapped around the pellet. After a short while, the Zhen Yuan in Lu Ping's hand dissipated, and the pill returned to Daoist Tianfeng in the jade essence bottle. "How is it?" Tianfeng Laozu asked Lu Ping as he took the jade essence bottle. Lu Ping hesitated for a moment before saying, "Who made this pill? From the way it was refined, there was nothing wrong with it. How come the medicinal effect of the spirit forging pill is only 70% that of a real spirit forging pill?" Tianfeng Laozu nodded his head and said, "The pill you just saw was refined by Master Fornax. Moreover, he used the mountain and river treasured cauldron that Junior Tianlin obtained from the Ying Tian dojo. Regardless of whether it was Master Fornax or Junior Tianqin, they used a top-grade cauldron or a magic treasure cauldron. Although the success rate of the spirit forging pill is different, the medicinal effect is the same. It is only 70% of the 8 spirit forging pills that you obtained from Fei Ling Mountain. With 2 Grandmasters Laozu working together, the reason why the spirit forging pill's medicinal effect was reduced couldn't be due to the alchemists. It must be known that Lu Ping's current alchemy skills couldn't compare to Tianfeng and Tianqin Laozu. Lu Ping's doubts flashed in his mind. Although he didn't expect this kind of accident to occur, After discovering the reason why the spirit-forging pill refined by Tianfeng Laozu had decreased in effectiveness, he immediately thought of another reason. Tianqing Laozu looked at Lu Ping and asked with some eagerness, "How is it, boy? Did you think of the reason?" Lu Ping hesitated for a moment before saying, "Not yet, but this disciple needs to personally refine it in order to confirm some things." Could it be because of the water refinement? Tianqing Laozu glanced at Tianfeng Laozu beside him, then asked Lu Ping. Lu Ping shook his head and said, "The pills refined by the spirit water refining technique are extremely easy to identify. Among the 8 spirit forging pills obtained from Failing Mountain, there were no traces of the spirit water refining technique. Moreover, although the effects of the spirit water refining technique are good, only one pill can be refined at a time. However, one still needs to prepare a batch of spiritual herbs, which is not worth it for refining the spirit forging pill. Only those pills that are extremely difficult to refine or extremely special will use the spirit water refining technique." Tianqing Laozu was a little disappointed, but Tianfeng Laozu seemed to have already expected that Lu Ping would say this. He smiled and said, "That's good too. We are far inferior to you in terms of alchemy. It just so happens that there is still some time before the Fist Valley space opens. You can use this time to refine a batch of pills and see what the reason is." On the way back to his stone room, Lu Ping was thinking about the situation of the spirit forging pill. His intuition told him that Tianfeng Laozu still had some things to say. Even if Tianfeng Laozu and Tianqin Laozu couldn't refine the spirit forging pill with full effectiveness, these 2 grandmasters must have some guesses about the reason. However, he didn't know why Tianfeng Laozu didn't tell him and only wanted him to refine a batch of pills first. Could it be that he simply wanted to verify the level of the alchemy skills of Lu Ping and the 2 Laozu, or was it something else? Lu Ping's thoughts turned and he sat quietly in the stone room for a whole day. Only then did he adjust his state to the best. Then he waved his hand and the Nachuan cauldron turned into a huge cauldron that was half the height of a person and landed in the stone room. Dozens of jade boxes flew out from Lu Ping's sleeves. The spirit sealing talisman on the surface of the jade boxes dimmed one by one. The jade boxes opened, and various well-preserved spiritual herbs flew out of thin air and landed in front of Lu Ping. A few days later, the 3 Laozu came to the rock cave again. Although there was a seal that Lu Ping had set up at the door of the stone room, the fragrance of resentment still penetrated the stone room and filled the entire rock cave. Tianqing Laozu sniffed and fiercely inhaled 2 mouthfuls of the pill fragrance. His face was full of satisfaction. Then he asked Tianshan Laozu, who was beside him, "Senior brother, how effective do you think this kid's spirit forging pill will be?" Tianshan Laozu hesitated for a moment and said, "If Master Fornax and junior sister Tianqin's guess is correct, this kid can really refine a complete spirit forging pill. However, his success rate will definitely not be as high as Master Fornax and junior sisters." Tianqing Laozu smiled and said, "This kid must have a lot of cards up his sleeve. If you don't force him, you will never know what other tricks he has up his sleeve." Tianqing Laozu pondered for a moment and then asked Tianqing Laozu, "Senior brother, why didn't you tell him about Master Fornax and junior sister Tianqin's guess about the spirit forging pill's medicinal properties? Why did you want him to refine the pill first?" Tianfeng Laozu's gaze was deep as he said, "It doesn't matter if I tell him or not. We just need to see the results of his refining." Tianqing Laozu was a little displeased. "Aren't you afraid that this kid will have second thoughts?" Tianfeng Laozu said confidently, "He won't." The reason why the spirit forging elixir was called a half-step to the Dharma stage elixir was because the ratio and quantity of spirit herbs required to refine the elixir was similar to that of a half-step to the Dharma stage elixir. Furthermore, this elixir was only useful for core forging adepts and had no effect on Dharma adepts. However, the actual process of refining the spirit forging pill was even more difficult than that of a normal Dharma stage pill. After a series of preliminary preparations, it was already 3 days later when Lu Ping was ready to ignite the cauldron. After that, he spent another 5 days meticulously refining the pellets. Finally, it was time to condense the pellets. Actually, Lu Ping had his own guesses about why Tianlu and Tianqin Laozu were unable to refine the spirit forging pill. It was just that this guess was related to a secret technique that he had, so he did not want to say it out loud. There were two main reasons why Lu Ping had handed over the recipe for the minor forging pill to the sect. Firstly, Lu Ping had a spirit liquid that was better than the dew of vitality. Secondly, it was because of his spirit fire smelting purification technique. The small spirit forging pellet was originally an imitation of the spirit forging pellet, so it was closely related to the spirit forging pellet itself. However, the small spirit forging pellet only had a quarter of the medicinal effect of the spirit forging pellet. But after Lu Ping's purification technique, the medicinal effect of the small spirit forging pellet was increased to a third or even more of the medicinal effect of the spirit forging pellet. This made Lu Ping suspect that this purification technique was originally a common inheritance of Fei Ling sect, be it in alchemy or smithing. It was precisely because of this set of purification technique that Lu Ping obtained from a secret chamber in the ruins of Fei Ling Mountain's pavilion of smithing that allowed Lu Ping to refine spirit herbs and medicinal liquids with twice the effort and half the result during the alchemy process. It could be said that Lu Ping's rapid progress in alchemy was largely due to this set of purification technique that allowed him to improve his alchemy skills so quickly. Lu Ping speculated that the spirit forging pellets concocted by Zhenling sect were only 70% as effective as the original spirit forging pellets. This was most likely because the spirit forging pellets were originally from Fei Ling sect's secret art, the spirit fire smelting purification technique. Currently, he only had 3/4 of the Wonder Jade Dew in his hand, which was a total of 27 drops. Presumably, this drop of Wonder Jade Dew should be enough for the 4 remaining pills to be refined. The spirit chi in the pill furnace suddenly became somewhat chaotic, and Lu Ping's divine sense couldn't control it for a moment. He sighed inwardly. This spirit forging pill was indeed difficult to refine. The spirit chi in the pill furnace suddenly became somewhat chaotic, and his divine sense couldn't control it for a moment. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. This spirit forging pill was indeed difficult to refine. A jade bottle appeared in his hand, and Lu Ping hurriedly dripped a drop of purple crystal royal bee jelly into the pill furnace. When the 3rd drop of royal bee jelly appeared, the 4th pill suddenly turned into pure spirit chi and evaporated. After another moment, Lu Ping's eyes narrowed, and he reached out to pat the pill furnace. The pill furnace suddenly issued a distant roar, and the lid of the furnace rose into the air. 3 purple pills suddenly jumped out of the pill furnace and scattered in all directions in the stone room. Outside the stone room, Tianshan Laozu and the others heard the roar of the pill furnace, and their expressions were also shocked. The pills are formed. Inside the stone room, Lu Ping looked at the 3 spirit forging pills in the jade essence bottle, and he felt quite conflicted. It seemed that it was really because of the purification secret technique. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. Could it be that he really had to teach this secret technique to the sect? The restriction at the door of the stone room gradually melted, and Lu Ping walked out of the stone room with a face full of joy and doubt. Tianqing Laozu was impatient, and he hurriedly asked, "How is it?" Lu Ping handed the jade essence bottle to Tianqing Laozu, and Laozu hurriedly opened the bottle to check. After a moment, he exclaimed, "It's done. It's 100% spirit forging pill, and there's no loss of medicinal efficacy." Chapter 714. Tiancheng Laozu's exclamation made Laozu and Tianshan Laozu happy. The 3 of them carefully examined the 3 spirit forging pills that Lu Ping had refined. After a while, Tianfeng Laozu let out a long sigh and said, "It really is a 100% spirit forging pill. There is not a single loss of medicinal efficacy." "Nephew Lu, how did you do it?" Tiancheng Laozu and Tianshan Laozu both looked at Lu Ping, but Lu Ping replied, "Disciple refined the spirit forging pill according to the recipe. There is no difference." "Martial uncle, does Master Tianlu and Martial uncle Tianqin have any suspicions about this?" Lu Ping threw the question back at them. Tian Shan Laozu and Tian Qing Laozu both looked at him. Tian Feng Laozu smiled and said, "It seems that Master Tianlu and martial sister Tianqin have guessed correctly. This spirit forging pill may have something to do with the water attribute cultivation method of your world." When Lu Ping heard that he didn't suspect anything else, he felt as if a huge stone had been lifted from his heart. But when he heard Tian Feng Laozu's and Tianqin's guesses, Lu Ping's expression froze. Tian Feng Laozu saw Lu Ping's expression and smiled. "What, you also thought of it?" When martial sister Tianqin heard that you knew the spirit water refining technique, she said that you might be able to refine the spirit forging pill. Master Tianlu thought that if you used the spirit water refining technique to refine the spirit forging pill, you would be able to refine a complete pill. But in terms of the various preparations needed to refine the spirit forging pill, it wouldn't be worth it. Lu Ping was originally conflicted about whether or not he should give the spirit forging technique to the sect. He didn't think that Tian Feng Laozu and the others didn't suspect that Lu Ping was hiding something, but that it was because of his water attribute cultivation method. Lu Ping's conflicted thoughts disappeared and his expression brightened. But in the eyes of Tian Feng Laozu and the others, Lu Ping also understood the reason, so he continued, "You should also know that the spirit forging pill refined by the spirit fire pill furnace will have some smoke and fire aura. Master Tianlu once carefully examined the spirit forging pill you brought back from Fei Ling Island, and there was indeed smoke and fire aura. This means that the spirit forging pill was definitely not refined using the spirit water refining technique. However, the smoke and fire aura in the spirit forging pill was extremely weak, so weak that most alchemy grandmasters can't do it. Therefore, Master Tianlu suspected that the person who could refine the complete spirit forging pill must be someone like you, who cultivated a water attribute cultivation method, but somehow became a genius in alchemy. Only in this way, during the process of refining the pill, can your water attribute true yuan offset the smoke and fire aura in the pill to the greatest extent. Tian Feng Laozu's words caused Lu Ping to sink into deep thought. He originally thought that the spirit forging pill was not effective because of the spirit forging technique, but now it seemed that the purification technique was only one of the reasons, and the attribute of his own cultivation method was another. And Tianlu Laozu and Tianqin Laozu didn't suspect him, they just wanted to verify their own conjectures through him, but they didn't expect Lu Ping to have the heart of a villain. Lu Ping smiled bitterly as he shook his head. His own alchemy skills would eventually be passed down in Jinling, and the spirit forging technique would definitely not be kept a secret by Lu Ping. However, he felt that now was not the right time. Moreover, even if Lu Ping wanted to pass down these things, he could only pass them on to his own disciples. It was impossible for him to tell the other alchemists in the Pill Pavilion. Lu Ping suddenly remembered that there were still 3 Laozus in front of him, and it was extremely inappropriate for him to be in such a daze. When he looked up, the 3 Laozus had already left the cave, and the 3 newly refined spirit forging pills had already been taken by them. Lu Ping helplessly smiled bitterly. Tian Feng Laozu's meaning was very clear. From now on, the sect's spirit forging pills would be entrusted to him alone to refine. Although the spirit forging pill was heaven-defying, it also had many restrictions. For example, the spiritual herbs required to refine it were extremely rare, and the 10,000 Wonder Dew was even rarer. Moreover, it was limited to 3 pills, and there were also restrictions on the quality of the refined spiritual objects. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed and Lu Ping had concocted another 4 cauldrons of spirit forging pellets. Other than the cauldron he had concocted before and the cauldron he had prepared himself, Ancestor Tian Feng had also brought 3 cauldrons of spirit herbs and 3 drops of myriad wonder dew from Zhenling sect. Zhenling sect had prepared 5 cauldrons of spirit herbs for the spirit forging pellets. The first 2 cauldrons were used by Sky Cauldron Ancestor and Sky Zither Ancestor respectively. But when the 2 discovered that their spirit forging pellets were lacking in medicinal efficacy, they decisively gave up on the task. Instead, they asked enlightened Master Tian Feng to bring the remaining 3 cauldrons of spirit herbs to Lu Ping. Lu Ping had refined 4 batches of spirit forging pills in a row. With the help of the amethyst royal jelly and the spirit explosion technique, He barely managed to maintain a success rate between 30% and 40%. In addition to the 3 spirit forging pills he had refined in the first batch, he had refined a total of 17 spirit forging pills. 11 of them were given to Tianfeng Laozu and the other 2, while Lu Ping kept 6 for himself. The Fist Valley space was about to reopen, and Lu Ping had used up all the spiritual herbs he had for the spirit forging pills. Thus, he once again headed downstream. In the Fist Valley's grotto heaven, the 3 Yingshan Immortal Academy 3rd Layer Blood Condensation Realm disciples were all injured and looked to be in a sorry state. 3 fist-sized bees with purple crystal heads were flying around the 3 of them while buzzing. At the feet of the 3 were 4 cultivators who were already dead. From their clothes, it was clear that they were cultivators from the Gu family. Clearly, the additional cultivators had gotten into a conflict with the 3 Yingshan Immortal Academy cultivators, but in the end, the Yingshan Immortal Academy disciples emerged victorious. An Immortal Academy disciple whose head wasn't that large, but whose body was extremely fat, kicked the Gu family cultivator next to him, saying, "Pa, you even wanted to follow this old one to set up an ambush, not knowing that we already noticed you all a long time ago. However, senior son, your strength has increased again, actually using just a few moves to remove that person's head." A cultivator who wasn't tall but was obviously the leader frowned and said, "Junior brother Qian, stop fooling around. If it wasn't for Elder Xianping's 3 third layer blood condensation realm bees and the talisman given by Elder Xianping, who knows how much effort it would take for us to kill these 4 people. Let's bury these people's corpses first. There are only a few days left before the Fist Valley space closes. We can't fail miserably during this time and allow the other 2 sex cultivators to track us using the corpses on the ground." Another Immortal Academy disciple, who was about 18 or 19 years old, collected the 4 people's storage pouches and laughed. "Ha, senior brother's son, senior brother Qian, these 4 people really have a lot of good stuff on them. In total, there are more than 3,000 stalks of 500-year-old spiritual herbs and 7 to 800,000-year-old spiritual herbs. It seems that other than collecting the spiritual herbs themselves, these 4 people have probably killed and robbed quite a bit." Junior brother Qian, who had just stomped on the ground and created a 3-meter-wide pit, was overjoyed. "So much? Sigh, if it wasn't for the fact that we followed Elder Xianping's team's map to check a few places, the 3 of us might have gained more than them." Senior brother's son, who was the leader, said unhappily, "Junior brother Qian, junior brother Zhou, Elder Xianping's matter is more important. Even if we don't gain anything this time, we still have to complete Elder Xianping's orders." Junior brother Qian laughed and said, Of course. The 4 of them divided the spiritual herbs and took a few mid-grade magical artifacts according to their needs. However, they suddenly heard the buzzing sound of the 3 demonic bees suddenly become much louder. The 3 of them stared blankly for a moment, then became happy. Junior brother Qian said, "Could it be that the demonic bees have discovered something?" Senior brother Sun's face also showed a trace of joy as he said, "According to the secret map that Elder Xianping gave us, there should be a secret spirit herb garden here. The places that we had been to before were either wastelands or were cut off by spatial cracks. We have been searching for more than 2 months, but we have found very little. Now that the demonic bees are flying around, it is obvious that they have found something." Junior brother Zhou also said excitedly, "Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and let go of the demonic bees, then we'll follow them to find the spiritual herb garden." The 3 of them followed the route the 3 demonic bees took, carefully avoiding several spatial cracks. Suddenly, their eyes lit up. The 3 of them looked at the scene in front of them, and their faces immediately became sluggish. Junior brother Qian raised his trembling hand and pointed in front of him. He said, This is a 3,000-year-old spiritual herb garden?" Senior brother's son immediately reacted. He could not hide the excitement on his face. He said, "What are we waiting for? Let's first release the blood-refining realm demonic bee swarm that Elder Xianping gave us, then we'll harvest everything here. But don't forget to leave a portion of the spiritual herb seeds behind." In another corner of the spatial crack, Tianyu hurriedly flew forward. This spatial crack also prohibited cultivators from flying, so all cultivators could only walk on the ground. Yingshan Immortal Academy's disciple in front, stop. Where can you run to? A Mountain Universe Sect's Level 3 Blood Condensation Realm cultivator chased closely behind Tianyu, while the other two cultivators flanked him from both sides. Gradually, they forced Tianyu into a corner of a spatial crack. Tianyu had nowhere to run, so he turned around and faced the three cultivators in front of him. He was originally a Level 6 Blood Condensation Realm cultivator, but now that his cultivation was sealed, he was chased for hundreds of kilometers by these three. In the end, he still could not escape. If he could survive this, he would definitely cultivate a few powerful spells and divine abilities when he returned to the Immortal Academy. Tianyu's expression was filled with regret. He was only interested in alchemy. Although he had observed Taoist Xian Ping practicing the sword before, he did not put all of his attention on sword techniques like Wang Qi. He only practiced occasionally when he thought of it. Even so, if not for the few sword techniques that Lu Ping did not forget, Tianyu would have been surrounded and killed by the three cultivators today. Brat, your luck is not bad. Someone actually found a 3,000-year-old spiritual herb garden in that kind of place. You don't need the three of us to teach you what to do, right? The leader of the group looked at the cultivator in front of him mockingly. Seventh senior brother, although this guy's strength is ordinary, his sword techniques are very strange. Be careful not to fail miserably. Tianyu silently took out a mid-grade flying sword. He had already made up his mind. If he could not withstand the three cultivators' attacks, he would break the seal on his cultivation. That way, the surrounding space would not be able to withstand the pressure of a mid-stage blood condensation realm cultivator, and it would collapse. He would not be able to escape death, and the three cultivators in front of him would be buried with him. Tianyu already knew that since Taoist Xian Ping was so cautious in placing these secret maps, there must be a 3,000-year-old spiritual herb garden in them. Such a secret must not be known by the cultivators from the other two sections. Chapter 7:15. After Du Jialhua entered the Fist Valley, Debao rolled out from his sleeve. Du Jialhua looked at Debao, who was sniffing the ground as if searching for something. He asked cautiously, "Jinren Debao, what should we do?" Lu Ping used a secret technique to forcibly seal Debao's cultivation from the second level of the core forging realm to the third level of the blood condensation realm. This powerful sealing technique was something Lu Ping learned from his teacher, Laozu. However, the price to pay for it was also very expensive. After the seal was removed, Debao's cultivation would return to the first level of the core forging realm. Although Debao was willing to go to all kinds of forbidden and dangerous places to search for all kinds of treasures, he was naturally unwilling to let his cultivation drop by one level. However, Lu Ping told Debao that if he still wanted to have a chance of advancing to the Transcendence realm in the future, it would be best for him to reduce his cultivation to the first level of the core forging realm. Debao was originally the lowest level spirit-seeking mouse in the cultivation world. He had relied on Lu Ping's continuous supply of elixirs to increase his cultivation to his current level. His own foundation was extremely weak. If Debao didn't consolidate his cultivation, even if Lu Ping continued to supply Debao with elixirs, it would be impossible for him to advance to the Transcendence realm. Although Debao's cultivation was sealed, and he could only move around in his original form with the strength of the third level of the blood condensation realm, he could still speak. When he heard Lu Ping's question, he raised his head and looked at Du Jialhua. He chuckled and said, "Of course, I have to do some private work. Just follow me." In more than 2 months, under Debao's lead, Du Jialhua found 7 to 8 spiritual herb gardens in the Fist Valley. The number of 500-year-old spiritual herbs he collected reached 2,000, and he even found nearly 1,000 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Such an achievement made Du Jialhua overjoyed. However, Debao became more and more unhappy. He didn't care about these things that were below 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Other than his love for treasure hunting, The biggest reason he entered the Fist Valley this time was because Lu Ping learned from the memory of the pure Yang soul that this space was used as an important spiritual herb base by the Ying Tian sect. In the depths of the space, there were houses built by the disciples sent by the Ying Tian sect to watch over and cultivate the spiritual herbs. However, as De Bao followed the paths Lu Ping drew for him, he kept running into spatial cracks, and other obstacles. In the end, he had no choice but to change his route. Fortunately, although these routes were blocked, the places along the way happened to be densely packed with spiritual herb gardens that the Ying Tian sect opened. Du Jialua took the opportunity to gain quite a lot. This time, seeing that the space was about to close, De Bao had already tried to follow the last route to see if he could enter the depths of the space. Not only were there houses built by the Ying Tian sect disciples, but the place where the houses were built was also where the spiritual vein of the entire space was located. The places that were closer to the spiritual vein were naturally densely packed with 3,000-year-old spiritual herb gardens. At this moment, De Bao's body, which was rolling forward rapidly like a meatball, suddenly stopped. Du Jialua, who was chasing closely behind, took the opportunity to let out a breath. Just when he was about to speak, he heard De Bao whisper, "Be quiet." Hearing this, Du Jialua hurriedly restrained his aura and focused his voice. At the same time, he threw De Bao to his mid-grade magic tool. Du Jialua had encountered similar situations a few times before. With De Bao's talent, they had avoided many cultivators from other sections. De Bao's nose twitched rapidly. A moment later, a sliver of surprise flashed across his eyes. He turned around and said to Du Jialua, "There seems to be a fellow disciple of yours being surrounded and attacked by 3 people in front. The situation doesn't look good." Du Jialua's expression became anxious. Enlightened De Bao, "Let's go and help him." De Bao glanced at Du Jialua and said, "We must help him, but it depends on how we help him. If we go up like this, a first-layer blood condensation realm minor repairs and a third-layer blood condensation realm rat demon can't do anything." Tian Yu's current situation was very bad. He was surrounded by 3 third-layer blood condensation realm mountain sect disciples. He wasn't good at fighting, and his cultivation was sealed. How could he fight against the 3 of them? Fortunately, Tian Yu had a third-layer blood condensation realm wasp with him. Even though the wasp was weaker than him, it became a great help to him. Tian Yu was like a crazed tiger. He was fighting with his life on the line. If the other 3 weren't confident in their victory, Tian Yu would have been killed a long time ago. Tian Yu casually touched his waist and swallowed a vitality-replenishing pill. It turned into a warm current that was absorbed and transformed by his bloodline, nourishing the magic power in his bloodline that was drying up. How many pills does this brat have on him? Isn't he afraid of the medicinal toxins accumulating in his body and killing him? One of the mountain sect disciples cursed as he defended against Tian Yu's frenzied attacks. Could this guy be an alchemist? I think he's a spoiled brat. He has a lot of good stuff on him, but his skills are lacking. Not necessarily. His sword techniques are very exquisite, but he looks like he hasn't practiced them for a long time. Why does he look so awkward? He's learned to protect himself to this extent. He deserves to die in our hands today. Everyone, put in more effort. Whether he's an alchemist or a spoiled brat, all the good stuff on him will belong to us after he dies. The greed in the 3's eyes intensified. They no longer fought with Tian Yu. The 3 of them attacked together, and a few more wounds appeared on Tian Yu's body. Tian Yu only had a sliver of consciousness left. If he could no longer defend against the 3's attacks, he would unseal his cultivation. When that happened, he would perish together with the 3 of them. Right at this moment, a strange spiritual energy suddenly exploded under everyone's feet. The 3 people who were attacking Tian Yu suddenly felt their bodies sink, as if they were carrying a heavy pressure on their backs. Their previously nimble movements suddenly became difficult to move. Not good. Someone's ambushing us. Who is it? Show yourself. The 3 of them circulated the magic power in their bodies to push away the huge force that was pressing down on them. Tian Yu, who had already given up all hope, suddenly became spirited. He used a sword technique and slashed a half-foot-long wound on a Mountain Universe sect disciple's body. Although the attack of this strange power disrupted the rhythm of the three people's attacks, after the three of them circulated their magic power, they were still able to resist this kind of magic. However, just as the three of them had shaken off the huge force, before they could even react, a figure was already rushing towards them. At the same time, an iron hammer magic artifact flew out of his hand, transforming into a giant hammer that was half a zhang in size in the air. Then, it fiercely smashed towards one of the Mountain Universe sect disciples. So it's another Yingshan Immortal Academy disciple who's seeking death. He's only at the first stage of the blood condensation realm. He's simply courting death. Seeing that Du Jialua was attacking him, the Mountain Universe sect disciple hurriedly used all his strength. However, he still had a ferocious expression on his face as he raised the magic weapon in his hand and counterattacked Du Jialua. The Mountain Universe sect disciple instantly felt a huge force descending from the sky. His body was fiercely nailed into the ground by half a foot, and his magic power almost dissipated. The giant hammer returned, and the flying figure only paused for a moment before launching another attack at him. This time, the Mountain Universe sect disciple didn't dare to underestimate his opponent. He focused 120% of his attention and tried to reverse the passive effect of the hammer strike. Just as Du Jialua rushed over and launched a sneak attack on one of the Mountain Universe sect disciples, the other Mountain Universe sect disciple saw that Du Jialua's hammer strike had caused his companion to suffer. He wanted to deal with this first-stage blood condensation realm minor repairs first. However, before he could make a move, more than 10 talismans suddenly appeared in front of him. Fireballs, frost arrows, blood-sucking vines, golden light thorns, meteor techniques, and more than 10 other spells flew towards him. The power of each talisman was equivalent to an attack from an early-stage blood condensation cultivator. In an instant, the Mountain Universe sect disciple's soul was shattered. Fortunately, this Mountain Universe sect disciple wasn't a weakling. He wielded a spear magic weapon and shot out dozens of spear shadows, destroying the spells one by one. However, before he could even catch his breath, another 10 talismans flew towards him. The Mountain Universe sect disciple cursed at this wastrel. He felt so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. The Mountain Universe sect disciple tried to dodge, but just as he took a step forward, the ground beneath his feet suddenly collapsed. The Mountain Universe sect disciple cursed inwardly. Just as he was about to use his magic power to stabilize himself, the pressure on everyone suddenly increased. The Mountain Universe sect disciple staggered and fell into the pit. 2 pill-like beads were suddenly thrown out from the ground. Then, under the Mountain Universe sect disciple's confused gaze, the beads suddenly exploded into 2 sharp sword chi that sliced towards the Mountain Universe sect disciple's neck. What kind of strange spell was this? The Mountain Universe sect disciple wasn't a weakling. He shook the spear in his hand and destroyed one of the sword chi. However, his legs tightened, and it was too late for him to dodge the other sword chi. He could only try his best to avoid being hit in his vital organs, and one of his arms fell off his body. The Mountain Universe sect disciple knew that he couldn't escape. He used his magic power to break free from the shackles on his legs and tried to escape. However, he didn't have the chance to escape. Another pill flew towards him. This one was different from the previous 2 pills. This one suddenly exploded. It was a ball of black flames. The Mountain Universe sect disciple's face changed when the blood dripping from his shoulder was burned by the black flames. But before he could scream, his entire body suddenly turned black and turned into ashes in the flames. Debao crawled out from the ground. He really had foresight. He made up his mind to collect everything that Lu Ping had thrown away. At the very least, these talismans and intentional battle pills that Lu Ping had been using for practice would be put to good use. However, he didn't think about it. He was a core forging stage beast cultivator. If he undid the seal, then even if hundreds of these things were thrown at him, they wouldn't be able to harm a single hair on his body. Seeing Debao easily finish off his opponent, the other 2 Mountain Universe sect cultivators were shocked and they wanted to run away. At this time, how could Tian Yu let go? Du Jiaoa was also doing his best to entangle his opponent with the help of a monster wasp. Debao's rat eyes flashed with a trace of craftiness and he dove into the ground. It was unknown where he went. The two Mountain Universe sect disciples suddenly panicked. They were immediately distracted by Debao, who could appear at any time. Tianyu and Du Jiaoa's spirits rose and their attacks became sharper. The two of them became more and more skilled. Chapter 716. Lu Delay transformed into his original form and carried Lu Ping along the Ying River towards the Fist Valley space. Although the Ying River had many twists and turns in the Ying mountain range, Lu Ping could greatly reduce the time and distance if he flew. However, Lu Ping was naturally fond of water and would rather carry Lu Dagui downstream. When Lu Ping arrived at the entrance of the Fist Valley space, perfected Gu Hun and perfected Jian Ming had already returned. However, the person who came from the Mountain Universe sect was not Pang Feiyun, but another late-stage core forging realm cultivator. When Lu Ping arrived, this cultivator looked at Lu Ping carefully. Lu Ping followed the gaze of the person but did not take it to heart. In the Fist Valley space, although Du Jiaoa was only at the first stage of the blood condensation realm, he appeared to be quite calm when fighting against the Mountain Universe sect's third-stage blood condensation realm disciple. Several times, the cultivators from Mountain Universe Order had attempted to snatch the initiative from Du Jiaoa. However, Du Jiaoa was able to accurately control his attacks and defenses, allowing him to firmly suppress the cultivators from Mountain Universe Order. However, one of the main reasons why Du Jiaoa was able to suppress the Mountain Universe sect's cultivators was because the gravity technique that Debao had cast on them was still working. Compared to Du Jiaoa, Tianyu's situation seemed to be better. After all, Tianyu was a mid-stage blood condensation realm cultivator with his cultivation sealed. Although he was not good at fighting, after fighting for a while, Tianyu's sword techniques seemed much sharper. However, when Debao made his move, he still helped Tianyu first. After dealing with Tianyu's opponent, the two of them turned around to deal with the last Mountain Universe sect's cultivator who was planning to escape. After collecting the spiritual herbs from the three Mountain Universe sect's cultivators, Tianyu handed all the mid-grade magic tools they used to Du Jiaoa. Du Jiaoa wanted to decline, but Debao smiled and said, he might not be strong, but he is still a mid-blood condensation realm cultivator. He has always had good magic tools. You can keep these magic tools for yourself. He has better ones. Du Jiaoa was still hesitating, but Tianyu had already smiled and said, I am an alchemist, I originally did not need these things. Junior brother, feel free to take them. Debao rummaged through the storage artifact under his neck for a long time and finally took out a jade bottle. He took out a pill and threw it to Tianyu. This is the poison cleansing pill that boss refined back then. It's the most suitable for someone like you who swallowed a large number of pills in a short period of time, resulting in the accumulation of pill toxins. From Du Jiaoa's point of view, this senior brother in front of him seemed to be very familiar with perfected Debao. He directly swallowed the pill that perfected Debao handed to him and started refining it. Although Debao knew that these two people in front of him were people that Lu Ping valued and there was a high chance that they would become Lu Ping's disciples in the future, Lu Ping did not say anything about the matter. Debao also did not know what Lu Ping's rules were. Hence, Debao did not mention these things at all. The three of them continued to recover their magic power. Tianyu also wanted to use this opportunity to recover from his injuries. In the blink of an eye, 6 hours passed. Debao and Du Jiaoa had already recovered. Tianyu, on the other hand, was still circulating his cultivation technique to treat his internal injuries. This was especially so because he had swallowed a large number of pills that he did not have time to refine in time. As a result, a lot of pill toxins had accumulated in his body. Fortunately, perfected Debao had collected the blood condensation realm pills that Lu Ping had refined in the past. Now it came in handy. Tianyu's face changed from green to white. A moment later, a surge of blood energy suddenly rushed into his body. Tianyu's eyes suddenly opened and he swallowed a mouthful of dirty blood. Tian Yu's face was still pale, but his spirit was much better than before. Debeo nodded his head slightly and said, "The pill toxins have been forced out. Although your injuries have not fully recovered, at least it will not hinder your cultivation in the future." The two of them followed behind Debeo, moving along the edge of the spatial cracks. After an unknown period of time, Debeo finally stopped and said, "All right, it should be here. Let's hope that we can directly reach the deepest part of the spatial crack this time." Tian Yu hesitated for a moment and said, "Perfected Debeo, where are we going? Did Uncle Master Xianping give us any orders?" Perfected Debeo rolled his eyes. It was unknown how his rat eyes could roll so much. He said, "Of course it's boss's orders. Otherwise, why would I, Lu Debeo, a dignified core forging realm beast cultivator, pay such a huge price and take such a big risk to come to this place? Alright, don't ask anymore. This place is full of dangers. Follow me closely and pass through the cracks in the spatial crack. If we can reach our destination, we will naturally understand the mission this time." In an area surrounded by spatial cracks, 3 Immortal Academy disciples carefully gathered a patch of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs and placed them into the spirit sealing boxes that Lu Ping gave them. These 3 were the only Immortal Academy disciples who had reached the 3rd layer of the blood condensation realm. After placing the last 3,000-year-old spirit herb into his spirit sealing box, junior brother Qian hurriedly stood up and stretched. He said, "We're finally done. Senior brother son, do you think we suffered a loss this time? It's been 3 whole months, but we only found 2 spirit herb gardens hidden in the spatial cracks. There are only a few hundred spirit herbs in total, and we were almost ambushed by a group of Gu clan cultivators." Before senior brother son could speak, junior brother Zhou spoke first. "Suffered a loss? This is a 3,000-year-old spirit herb. If we were to exchange it with a 1,000-year-old spirit herb, it would be worth 10 times. Our few hundred 3,000-year-old spirit herbs are worth close to 10,000 1,000-year-old spirit herbs, let alone 500-year-old spirit herbs." Junior brother Qian laughed and said, "Ha, that's true, that's true. I just feel that it's a pity. We spent more than 2 months searching for the 7 secret locations that Sage Xianping gave us, but only 2 of them exist. The others have all been sealed by the spatial cracks. If the other 5 were not sealed by the spatial cracks, then our harvest would be really great." Junior brother Zhou curled his lips. On the surface, he couldn't be bothered to pay attention to this greedy guy, but his heart was filled with regret like junior brother Qian. He looked at senior brother son beside him and saw that he was thinking about something with his head lowered. He asked curiously, "Senior brother son, what are you thinking about?" Senior brother son said in a low voice, "You said that the disciples of Ying He, Ying Shan, and Dao space sects had entered this space at least 8 times, if not 10 times. How come they didn't discover these spirit herb gardens hidden between the spatial cracks? Daoist Xianping had never entered it, so how could he give each of us a map of this space, and even have 7 hidden secret places?" Junior brother Qian raised his eyebrows and said, "Isn't that obvious? The depths of these 2 secret places are so dangerous. If we didn't have Elder Xuanping's map in our hands, how would we dare to enter the depths of the spatial cracks?" Senior brother's son nodded and said, "Junior brother Qian is right. But the key question is, how did Elder Xianping know the situation in this space so clearly?" Junior martial brother Qian and junior martial brother Zhou looked at each other. After a long while, junior martial brother Zhou said, "How can we know about these things? Elder Xianping has remarkable abilities. His means are not something we can estimate." Senior brother's son raised his head expectantly and said, "That's true. But junior brothers, do you remember what Elder Xianping said before? If we come out of this space unscathed, he has a way to help all of us advance to the 4th layer of the blood condensation realm. Once we reach the 4th layer, we will be able to worship a core forging cultivator from the Immortal Academy as our master." Junior brother Qian swallowed and said, "Senior brother son, it can't be, you want to become Elder Xuanping's disciple?" Senior brother son stared blankly for a moment, and only then did he say with a bitter smile, "I do want to, but that would still require Elder Xianping's favor. However, I heard an immortal elder from our Immortal Academy inadvertently say that Elder Xianping indeed hasn't accepted any disciples, because there has never been anyone who could enter his elder's eyes. Junior brother Zhou was puzzled and asked, "Then what do you mean, senior brother?" Senior brother Sun said, "I heard some news from the Immortal Academy. Normally, when a cultivator reaches the mid-blood condensation realm, they will have the qualifications to become a core forging enlightened master's disciple, but they will only become an in-name disciple. However, if they are talented and want to improve themselves, or if they have some special talent, they can directly become a core forging enlightened master's personal disciple. In the future, they might even inherit the enlightened master's legacy and become his direct disciple." Senior brother Sun looked at junior brother Qian and junior brother Zhou and said, "I'm telling you this because the three of us have the highest achievements among this batch of Immortal Academy disciples. If we want to advance to the mid-blood condensation realm, we would rather not have a master for now. We have to think carefully about who we want to be under. Of course, it would be best if we can become a personal disciple in one go. That way, our achievements in the future will be even higher." Du Jialua and Tianyu followed behind Debao, making many turns and twists. They avoided the spatial cracks that could easily devour or cut them in half. When the two of them started to feel dizzy, they finally saw Debao stop in front of them. When the two of them looked up, the scene in front of them left them dumbfounded. Fortunately, Debao had seen more shocking scenes with Lu Ping. Even though the scene here also made Debao gasp in surprise, he immediately turned around and said to the two of them, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and release the bee swarm that boss gave you." Tianyu quickly released the 50 blood refining realm amethyst bees. Du Jialua did not have the bee swarm that Lu Ping gave him. Seeing that Tianyu released the level 3 blood condensation realm amethyst bee, Du Jialua also released his own. Debao looked at the dozens of demonic bees, then looked at the large spiritual herb garden in front of him. Then, he took out a spirit beast bag out of nowhere and shook it with all his might. Nearly 100 blood-refining realm amethyst bees were shaken out. When they saw the spiritual herb garden in front of them, they really swarmed towards the spiritual herb garden. Du Jialua and Tianyu also walked towards the spiritual herb garden. Debao stopped them and said, "Hey, where are you two going?" The two of them stopped and looked back in confusion. Gathering spiritual herbs. Who knows when we will finish gathering such a large spiritual herb garden? There's not much time left before the Fist Valley space closes. Follow me to another place first. Chapter 717. After passing through the vast spiritual herb garden, a row of wooden houses surrounded by fences appeared in front of everyone. When Du Jialua and Tianyu saw the wooden house, they felt an inexplicable sense of excitement. As cultivators, the two of them had never had the experience of exploring the ruins before. There was no need to talk about Du Jialua. He had only cultivated for a short period of time, always staying in Immortal Academy, so he didn't have much experience. Meanwhile, Tianyu's strength was meager to begin with, and pill refinement was a noble profession to begin with, so there was no need for him to risk his life to explore all types of dangerous historical remains. Therefore, when the two of them saw an ordinary house that looked like a wooden hut, their excitement was immediately aroused. This house was clearly built by the Surplus Heavens sect to manage the spirit herb garden in this space. How could a cultivator who could manage such a large spirit herb garden be ordinary? On the other hand, even if the cultivators who managed this spiritual herb garden were just a few unknown core forging cultivators, if they really left anything behind, it would be a huge fortune for blood condensation realm minor repairs cultivators like Du Jialua and Tianyu. The temptation of the wooden house made the two of them lose their vigilance. Du Jialua wanted to move forward, but he suddenly felt as if he was carrying a huge mountain on his back. Du Jialua looked back in surprise, only to see that Debao had stopped on the ground at some point. He said, "Don't go in yet." When Du Jialua heard this, he immediately came to a realization. He was startled. Tianyu, who was beside him, also hurriedly stopped when he heard this. Debeo waved his paw on the ground, and a small stone shot into the fence with a whistling sound. Suddenly, an invisible barrier appeared around the fence. The small stone hit the barrier, and ripples immediately appeared around the barrier. However, the small stone suddenly shattered into powder before it hit the ground. Hiss! Tianyu and Du Jialua immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Fortunately, the two of them had been stopped by Debeo earlier. If they had charged head-on like that, given their cultivations, they definitely would not have been able to dodge the rebound of the invisible barrier. This is an array formation? Tianyu was more knowledgeable than Du Jialua, so he asked Debeo, who was on the ground. Debeo's expression was a little solemn as he said, "It is indeed a formation, and it has been operating for 4,000 years. It is obvious that this place is supported by a spirit vein, and from the looks of it, the grade of the spirit vein is above a mid-grade spirit vein." Tianyu and Du Jialua knew about spirit veins. When Yingshan Immortal Academy was first established, there was only one spirit vein. 10 years later, after Heavenly Mountain Laozu perfected Lu Xinyuan, and the others worked hard to manage it, Yingshan Immortal Academy gained another 6 small-sized spirit veins. As for Heavenly Mountain Laozu, he did not open his sect to the masses. Instead, he took the path of elite disciples. Actually, the restriction of the mountain range's spirit veins was also an important reason. Debeo suddenly stood up and waved his 2 front paws as if he was making some sort of hand sign. Then, as if he was using his 2 hind legs to support his fat body, he seemed to be unable to do so, and suddenly fell back to the ground. Just as Du Jialua and Tianyu were feeling a little confused, they saw 5 purple crystal wasps split off from the swarm of wasps that were circling behind them to collect nectar. They flew in different directions of the wooden house. Seeing that the purple crystal wasps were about to hit the invisible barrier, Du Jialua hurriedly said, "Perfected Debeo, these are demon soldiers that Elder Xianping nurtured." Just as Du Jialua finished speaking, he saw 4 of the 5 purple crystal wasps that were flying in different directions explode when they touched the invisible barrier, while the remaining one was only bounced back. The purple crystal wasps flapped their wings and flew forward again, only to be bounced back a second time. They circled for a moment before flying back to the spiritual grass at the back. Debeo chuckled and said, "We don't have any formation masters among us. If we want to find an entry point, it's impossible to use lifeless stones. In that case, we can only use demonic wasps. Do we have to do it ourselves?" Debeo pretended to be a senior and spoke seriously, but he rolled his eyes again in his heart. Boss has at least 8,000 purple crystal wasps, if not 10,000. A few blood-refining wasps don't even have purple crystals on them. If they die, they die. As long as that little girl Zilon is here, the swarm will be replenished very soon. Boss won't care about this. The 3 of them looked in the direction where the purple crystal wasps had flown and saw that it was the fence at the entrance of the fence. Looks like this is the entrance to the magic array. Back then, the cultivator inside the house was in a hurry to leave. Thus, he did not activate the magic array protecting the house. Instead, he had casually set up a restrictive array at the entrance, Chen Feng thought. Du Jialua and Tianyu were greatly impressed by Debeo's words. As expected of a spirit pet that had followed Elder Xianping for many years. This level of knowledge was far beyond what the 2 of them could hope to match. Let's join forces and attack this restriction. Let's see if we can break it. Debao casually pulled out a mid-grade magic artifact from his storage magic artifact. Tianyu was using a mid-grade flying sword while Du Jialua was using a mid-grade magic artifact. It was the giant hammer from earlier. Tianyu's words interrupted Debeo's thoughts. Debeo looked at the invisible barrier in front of him again and chuckled. Then, he took out a talisman with a mixture of 3 colors under the 2's expectant gazes. This is a restriction-breaking talisman? Tianyu looked at the talisman in Debeo's hand with uncertainty. A trace of joy flashed across his face. Debeo didn't answer. Instead, he threw the three-colored restriction breaking talisman at the invisible barrier in front of him. Lu Ping was also proficient in talisman making in his early years. However, after advancing to the blood condensation realm, Lu Ping became obsessed with the art of alchemy and put his talisman making skills aside. It wasn't that his talent in talisman making was inferior to his alchemy skills. Now that he had obtained the Ying Tian faction's talisman inheritance in the Ying Tian dojo, especially the complete inheritance of the seven-colored restriction breaking talisman, Lu Ping picked up the talisman-making skills again. During the 10 years of closed-door cultivation, he quickly made the three-colored restriction breaking talisman. During this trip to the Fist Valley, Lu Ping already knew that there was a small courtyard left behind by a spirit plant farmer of the Ying Tian faction in the space. It was used to guard and manage the growth of the spirit herbs in this space. Naturally, he also knew about the invisible barrier outside the fenced courtyard. Therefore, he gave the three-colored restriction breaking talisman that he made recently to Debeo just in case. 3 colorful rays of light swept through the talisman, and the barrier at the fenced courtyard immediately began to melt as if it was snow under the warm sun. Debeo suddenly shouted, "Hurry up, let's put in more effort." The 3 of them worked with all their might again. The barrier that had been torn open by the restriction breaking talisman was completely shattered, and the house finally opened up to the 3 of them. Du Jiala looked at Debeo and thought about Debeo's endless tricks and treasures along the way in the space. He couldn't help but say enviously, "Jinren Debeo, I think you should be called Jinren Duobao. Treasure-seeking rat should also be called Duobao rat." Debeo was stunned, but Tianyu laughed and said, "Junior brother Du, Jinren Debeo doesn't dare to be called Jinren Duobao, but I can call you Duobao rat?" Du Jialua was confused and wanted to ask, but Debeo shouted, "Hurry up and go in. What nonsense are you talking about?" Du Jialua was confused, but when he saw that Tianyu had already followed Debeo into the fenced courtyard with a smile, Du Jialua could only put his doubts aside for the time being. His curiosity about the fenced courtyard immediately took over. There was a layer of excitement on his face, and he hurriedly ran into the fenced courtyard. Chapter 7:18. Outside the Fist Valley space, Lu Ping and the other 4 late-stage core forging realm cultivators worked together to open the Fist Valley space again. Half a day had passed, and more than half of the cultivators had returned. They handed their harvests to the alchemy masters from the various sects to sort them out. Out of the 18 cultivators from Zhenling sect, only 8 returned. Not even half of them returned. 3 of them were heavily injured, and the 4 third-level blood condensation realm disciples that entered the blood condensation realm didn't return. Out of the 24 disciples from the Gu clan, 15 had returned, and the Mountain Universe sect had also returned with 11 disciples. Both of them had far surpassed the Yingshan Immortal Academy. The disciples from the 2 sects had already begun to discuss among themselves, and there were sneers from time to time. The disciples that they had painstakingly nurtured had died in the Fist Valley space. Obviously, they thought that Jinling would definitely suffer a huge loss this time. Looking at Lu Ping, who had his eyes closed and a calm expression, enlightened Master Xianfang was the first to lose his cool. He walked towards Lu Ping and said, "Senior brother, what do you think?" Lu Ping opened his eyes and looked at enlightened Master Xianfang. He smiled and said, "Junior brother, don't be impatient. There's still half a day left. You just need to wait patiently." Enlightened Master Xianfang felt much more at ease when he saw Lu Ping's confident expression. However, he heard a sneer in his ear. This enlightened Master Xianping sure is patient. He doesn't care about the lives of his own disciples at all. Enlightened Master Fei Hong looked at his junior brother with some reproach. Just as he was about to say something, Lu Ping glanced at him indifferently and said, "Who are you? Tell me your name." This enlightened master who came to replace Pang Fei Yun felt as if a pair of sharp swords were stabbing at him when Lu Ping looked at him. He felt as if his entire body was immersed in ice. However, when he heard Lu Ping's disdainful words and expression, his face immediately turned red. He pointed at Lu Ping and said coldly, "You're too arrogant. When the matter in the Fist Valley is over, I'll definitely ask for a few moves from you. Lu Ping didn't even bother to look at him. He just casually said, "It's the same if you ask for advice now." This Jinren was a rather magnanimous person in the sect. Otherwise, he would not have been sent to take over Pang Fei Yun's duties. However, he was provoked by Lu Ping's words, and he was unable to back down. Because he knew that he was no match for Lu Ping. Taoist Master Flying Rainbow blamed his junior brother for being impetuous, but then his expression changed and he said, a disciple is coming out." Everyone was attracted by the movement in the space tunnel. The Mountain Universe sect's Taoist master fiercely turned his face away. How could he not know that his senior sister was taking the opportunity to find a way out of this embarrassing situation? However, this made the people who wanted to watch the show secretly sigh. What a pity. Lu Ping looked at Taoist Master Flying Rainbow and thought to himself that this core forging level 8 Alchemy Grandmaster's divine will was really not bad. It seemed to be a level higher than a peak core forging level cultivator's divine will. It was almost comparable to the divine will of a Dharma adept. This time, a disciple from the Gu clan came out first, followed by a disciple from the Mountain Universe sect. However, no one from the Yingshan Immortal Academy appeared. Taoist Xian Fong looked worriedly at Lu Ping, who still didn't seem to care. On the other side, the Mountain Universe sect's Taoist master glanced in the direction of the Immortal Academy and sneered silently. Lu Ping wasn't worried because the Amethyst Queen Bee told him that there were at least 5 third-level blood condensation realm bees alive. At the same time, there were also 5 bee swarms active. Of Lu Ping's 5 bee swarms, the 4 third-level blood condensation realm disciples each carried 1 bee swarm. The largest 100 bee swarm was with Debao, and Debao followed Du Jialua into the space. This meant that the 4 third-level blood condensation realm disciples and Du Jialua were still alive. This meant that there were at least 5 Yingshan Immortal Academy disciples alive. As for the other 5, the Amethyst Queen Bee had already informed Lu Ping that the aura of the amethyst bees on their bodies had disappeared. This meant that they must have been ambushed in the space, and the amethyst bees they carried with them had already died. This meant that the 5 of them were probably dead. In the Fist Valley space, Du Jialua and Tianyu each stuck a divine movement talisman on their legs. If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't fly in this space, they wouldn't have needed to use these talismans. At the same time, the 2 of them were amazed that Taoist Master Debao even had these talismans on him. As Du Jialua ran, he said to Tianyu, "It's such a pity that senior brother Tian is still alive. There's such a large spiritual herb garden around the house, but we only had time to collect all the 3,000-year spiritual herbs. There are still a large amount of 1,000-year spiritual herbs and 500-year spiritual herbs growing there." Tianyu also felt that it was a pity, but he still said, "All right, our harvest this time can be said to be the most in the Fist Valley space. We got nearly 1,000 3,000-year spiritual herbs in one go. What's there to complain about? If we continue to collect those 1,000-year spiritual herbs, I'm afraid the Fist Valley space will close." At this moment, Debao, who was hiding in Du Jialua's sleeve, suddenly exclaimed, 2 miles to the east, there's actually a group of Immortal Academy disciples who haven't left the space. Let's go meet up with them." Du Jialua and Tianyu heard this and quickly headed east. 2 miles passed in the blink of an eye, and they heard Debao say again, "I was wondering why the 3 of you were standing there without moving. We were originally blocked by someone. The 2 of you, take these things and fight your way out during the chaos later. There's not much time left. If we continue to delay, we will all be sealed in this space." Du Jialua and Tianyu each took the things that Debao handed over. The 2 of them looked at each other and thought to themselves, this perfected Debao is so unreasonable in beating people up. Senior Martial Brother Sun, Junior Martial Brother Qian, and Junior Martial Brother Zhou were also unlucky. They had been chased all the way here, and it wasn't easy for them to find the 2 secret areas marked out by Lu Ping on the map. After collecting a few hundred 3,000-year-old spirit herbs, they were once again ambushed. Yingshan Immortal Academy, I advise you to hand over all the spiritual herbs on you. That way, we will let bygones be bygones for the fact that the three of you killed a disciple of my Gu clan. Otherwise, the three of you can stay here and wait for death. 3 purple-headed demonic bees surrounded the 3 Yingshan Immortal Academy 3rd Layer Blood Condensation Realm disciples. The 3 of them had already been blocked by 3 Gu family disciples and 2 Mountain Universe sect disciples. The leader of the 3, Senior Brother's son, sneered, "Humph, don't think that I don't know about your tricks. If not for the demon weapons that Elder Xian Ping bestowed on us, the 5 of you would have already attacked us. Now you want us to hand over our things? That's just wishful thinking. If worst comes to worst, we'll just have to fight to the death. In any case, the spatial gate is closing right in front of us. Even if the 3 of us aren't your match, it's still easy for us to hold you up. You dare? Do the 3 of you really think that we won't dare to surround and kill you? Don't think that you are safe just because you have a few demon weapons on you. They are only at the 1st layer of blood condensation realm. What can they do?" Senior Brother's son looked at the other party's fierce expression. There was a trace of panic in his eyes. From time to time, he glanced behind him, clearly calculating the time when the space would close. Senior Brother's son sneered and looked at the 2 disciples of the Mountain Universe sect beside him. "That's strange. These 2 are clearly disciples of the Mountain Universe sect. Why are they together with the cultivators of the Gu family?" The 2 Mountain Universe sect disciples' expressions changed. One of them said, "Kill them." The 3 Gu family cultivators also reacted. They absolutely could not reveal today's matter. These 2 disciples were spies that the Gu family had painstakingly planted in the Mountain Universe sect. In the future, they might have the power to topple the Mountain Universe sect. They absolutely could not let the Yingshan Immortal Academy disciples leak this news. However, just as the 5 of them were about to attack, they suddenly sensed 2 people rapidly approaching them. When the 5 of them turned around, their eyes suddenly widened. Their eyes flashed with horror. They saw tens of talismans in the sky turning into countless ice blades, ice swords, fiery beasts, wood thorns, vine whips, flying stone swords, and so on. All of them came crashing down towards the 5 of them. At this moment, the 5 of them no longer cared about killing the Yingshan Immortal Academy disciples. They quickly used their own methods to block the attacks that filled the sky. Right at this moment, 2 figures took the opportunity to rush in. "Junior Brother Du, why is it you? And this is Senior Brother Tian?" Du Zhua handed 3 divine movement talismans to the 3 of them and said, "Let's go. There's not much time left. Now is not the time to be entangled with these people." The 5 of them took the chance to break through. Senior Brother's son seemed to have thought of something. He turned his head and said, "The 2 of you don't have to worry. I will definitely not reveal your identities to your sect. The 2 of you don't have to worry that the Mountain Universe sect will find out about this." Outside the space, Lu Ping sensed that the 5 of them were rapidly approaching the spatial passageway through the mysterious connection between the Purple Crystal Wasp King and the Purple Crystal Wasp. Reverend Linan was also slightly anxious like Reverend Xianfang. However, he was still a guest elder of Yingshan Immortal Academy. Even though he was trusted by everyone in the academy, there was still a layer of distance between him and Reverend Xianfang and Elder Xianping. Reverend Xianfang had already asked Lu Ping. It was not good for him to ask now. At this moment, Reverend Linan suddenly noticed that Elder Xianping, who had been expressionless all this time, suddenly revealed a trace of a smile. His heart immediately relaxed. Then he saw Elder Xianping's eyes suddenly open and he said softly, "They're here." Although Elder Xianping's voice was soft, everyone's expression shook when they heard it. Because of the obstruction of the spatial passageway, although everyone could sense if someone was approaching the passageway, they could not tell which sect's disciple was from. Therefore, even if Elder Xianping discovered that someone had returned, it might not be a disciple of Yingshan Immortal Academy. However, whether it was the Gu clan or the Mountain Universe sect's reverend, when they used their divine senses to observe the passageway, they did not discover any traces of disciples. Everyone did not mind. After all, Elder Xianping was extremely powerful. It was normal for his divine sense to be stronger than everyone else's. However, after waiting for a while, they still could not detect anyone approaching the spatial passageway. They began to look at each other. The new reverend from the Mountain Universe sect was the first to explode. He sneered and said, deliberately mystifying things. You've lost the face of a late core forging cultivator. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.